Welcome to the Late Night with Chalky podcast.
You ready?
Ready, Freddie?
Friends and family, brothers and sisters, welcome to the Late Night with Chalky podcast.
Our guest this week is a repeater, 2.0 take, right? Take two?
Take two.
Industry veteran, designer, brand owner. We've had him on the show, I think it was like 2020. We were trying to remember.
2019.
2019?
Yeah.
Kind of the beginning of our
The
show.
beginning of our show.
Before I start going into these, extravagant monologues about, how rad our guests are and prep them up. But, we're going to just kind of go off the whim here and kind of do maybe a little recap.
Yeah.
First
First of all, he's the original Australian hipster. I will never let you live that down.
Yeah.
I will dig up pictures again.
Oh, there's some
When you lived on a commune, I think that pretty much seals the deal as
Yeah.
like hipster / like I made my own
Hippie,
clothes.
like-
yeah,
Not hipster, hippie.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
into a hipster, I guess, was the
Just-
road.
Just recapping, your mom and dad lived
See, I told you, there's not an episode without Mr. Snuggles.
going crazy. What's up, Emmy? Yeah, Rama McCabe.
Yeah, we'll list what episode it is and when we promote
Yeah.
this because please, people, go back and listen to the first
Amazing
episode.
story.
Yeah,
Like, I didn't know Australia was that hippie infested.
Yeah, it definitely was. Not so much anymore.
well, there,
Yeah.
you what do you call it? Living on the dole.
Living on the dole,
Yeah.
dole bludger.
Yeah, like people can get by pretty low budge because
But this commune was a legit gnarly in the bush,
Yeah,
but by the beach.
on the beach.
On the beach.
On the beach. It was a 2-day walk from Cooktown, which is kind of near Cairns in
a
Far North.
2-day walk.
2-day walk, and you could go basically through the jungle along the coastline, or you could get a boat in as well. But most of the people coming in, how my dad originally got there was walking 2 days from Cooktown, and then he ended up, I think he was there for almost 20 years, just living.
And where on the coast? We're talking
So it's
north?
far north Queensland, Cape Tribulation. So it's Cairns is probably a lot of your listeners probably know what that is. It's a big snorkeling kind of destination. Great Barrier Reef is there, and then you go further north to Cooktown, which is a really small, tiny little town, probably full of rednecks or hicks or whatever you want to call them.
Bogans.
Yeah, bogans. And then it's a 2-day walk further north from that, and it's basically just this idealistic little beach place in the middle of nowhere. And my dad and a bunch of other people made it their home for almost 2 decades and lived off the land, and probably a lot of free love going on, which is probably where I came from, my older brother came from as well. And
Because you guys, you have the same mom and dad, or just
Pratama and I had the same dad, different mums.
different moms?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Pratama's 5 years older than I am, so he's mid 40s now. But yeah, so we were both kind of a product from that location in Australia, and it was it's I can't remember any of it because I left when I was 4, and my mum and dad, because they kind of split up, and then we all moved to Byron Bay, where I spent the rest of my youth, and then but my brother can remember it vividly because he was probably 9 or 10 when we left, and has amazing memories. And when we see photos of that time of life, he's like, I can remember that so easily, and I'm like, it feels like a different world because it's Robinson Crusoe kind of stuff. It's
For sure, yeah.
naked people walking along the beach, tree houses, gardens within the jungle, and I'm just I can't imagine my life ever being like that.
Yeah.
It's just so far removed.
You sent me a picture of your mom, and she's topless,
Yeah.
in.
Whoa, I didn't get that one.
We posted it,
I'm just kidding.
but it's such a crazy looking scenery that was real.
Yeah.
They lived off the land,
Yeah.
and were not jungle people, but earth, natural, like living off the earth.
Were you able to kind of talk to your parents and others about like, you know, good stories? Were they open about sharing all that? Because you know, you were young and you kind of don't remember, and your brother has some good memories, but I mean, 20 years there. I'm sure your parents have stories for days.
Yeah, a lot of great stories, but also lots of scary stories. There was like a period of time there was wild pigs that would go through the jungle there, and there'd be pig hunters that would come in with guns, and which were just such a different walk of life to what my dad and my mum and my brother's mum were about. Like, they were vegans, living off the land. It was all like peace, love and harmony, basically. And then there'd be these different people that would come through at periods that would like disrupt the harmony of that and cause some friction within the group. But overall, I think it was an amazing opportunity for any of the people that got to spend time there, because they got to live a life that I think is almost impossible to live these days, to not pay tax or have to earn money for 2 decades. I just don't even know how that would be possible.
I wonder if it still happens.
I don't know. I don't know.
Right?
I think it happens, but it's a little bit more like subsidized by like kind of cult, like, you know, or something, you know. I mean, I think cult kind of has a bad connotation, you know.
No, that makes sense.
You know, but I do feel like people have off the radar compounds, but it's probably not as rural, and you know, they have some sort of modern technologies or something.
They still have Instagram.
No, I don't think that, but I just meant, you know, like,
I remember your dad, kind of the story your dad started taking care
of gardening.
Built a house.
Yeah, he built like this like 2-story kind of like hut basically, and then it did like a geodesic dome on top of it. His dad, my grandfather, was a really good builder in the army, so my dad kind of learned a lot of how to kind of, I guess, build things and look after himself from his father. And so when he went up to Cedar Bay, he kind of brought all that knowledge to this community that they kind of set up there, and it was really from what I've been told, it was a really beautiful place. Like there's no like leader or person that was running the show. It was just people living in harmony, enjoying each other's company, and having some kids as well, and just trying to get away from all the trappings of modern society at that time. Which my dad, growing up in Sydney and Northern Beaches, was a surfer, and there was a lot of like drugs, and like a lot of his friends were dying from overdoses and becoming alcoholics, and he just wanted to remove himself from all of those dramas that he thought were going to be easy to get trapped in. And
we're talking like Vietnam War days or a little earlier.
It was when did he get he would have left in 86, so it would have been like
66,
86. Yeah.
So part of the free ride like era, then that era, you know, that timeline was people were doing a lot of drugs and you know, kind of anti-establishment and just kind of I mean, it wasn't
Timothy Leary. Tune in,
but it was
drop in, tune in.
It was an American movement. It was more of like a global movement, you know, like this, you know, governments and war and stuff. It was kind of gnarly back then.
Yeah, totally. But he just wanted to escape all that stuff, and it wasn't so much anti-establishment. It was just he wanted to live a better life where he was looking after himself and the people around him were respecting themselves as well. Because I don't think like they were doing any drugs for a really long time. I don't know this for a fact, but I think they might have got into some like mushrooms and some weed at like the very end of it. But at the first like 10, 15 years, it was like pure, just clean living. And I think that's what his original purpose of going out there was about.
Yeah.
So
you would want like to kind of recruit people that have different skill sets when you're that, you know, like how do you, it's not just like, oh, you want to come, cool, like what can you contribute, like, you know, you need people that,
we already got one of those.
But you know, like I was just thinking like, man, you know, like you said, your grandfather and your dad had a kind of an engineering mindset and they're good with building, you know, you'd have to have somebody that's kind of a green thumb gardener, you know, even though you could pick up stuff along the way. Yeah, like maybe somebody that has a little bit of medicine background, or
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like
just a village
of
different village people.
Yeah. I think that was a natural selection thing as well. Like people would come in and realize that there was someone already doing what they could do, and they'd probably leave, and then there'd be like someone would come in and go, oh, like there's space for me here, and then they'd end up staying for a long time.
It'd be interesting to somebody do a documentary on that kind of
Totally.
You know.
Yeah, I think it'd be an incredible story to tell, like in detail. Like I've do you know Derek Riley?
Yeah.
From Beach Creek? I've spoken to him about it a few times. Of like, hey, you should sit down with my old man and like talk to him about this period in Australia, because I think that he'd bring out it even more than what my brother and I have ever brought out of it.
For sure.
Days on days of like sitting there and talking through those experiences.
Yeah. I mean, I could just only
because hasn't that area turned into like one of the most like sought after places to live?
Oh, Byron Bay has for sure, but where the Cedar Bay, where we kind of were like born, that place is just a national park. So there's nothing there anymore, and all the, I guess, the structures that they built throughout those years have all just been taken over by the jungle. There's just like nothing there.
But isn't your dad like a caretaker now for a lot of different
he
properties?
Yeah, he lives in Byron Bay in a section of the beach called Belongil, and it's probably some of the most wealthy people in Australia have like really big, beautiful homes along this beach. My dad's been there for like 35 years or so since he left Cedar Bay. Nothing, just beach shacks, just like run down little shacks. Now it's like $20-30 million homes along this beach, and he's pretty well known person along that little stretch of beach. He looks like Gandalf. He's got like this long white beard, and like pure white. He's hilarious. And he walks down the beach from his house, walks along the beach, walks up into a property, will look after that property for a little bit, then walk back down, go into another one. And I think a lot of people just think that he's the owner of all these places, but he's not. He's just like going in there and like looking after like their garden and telling people.
Because these are really rich people's like second homes and getaways for the most part, right?
Yeah, probably fourth or fifth homes. The people that only ever there like 1 or 2 months a year, so it's really just vacant all year. And so he's just I guess has a responsibility to make sure all these places remain beautiful for when their owners come home. So.
That, and you get no freeloaders, and make sure like stuff because
doesn't overrun the property.
Having a set of eyes, security systems are good too, but like if these are nice pieces of property, there's no cameras everywhere.
Totally.
Wild.
So I don't know if we should fast forward to today, but no, let's not. Let's talk about you and how obviously your dad introduced you to surfing.
My mum did.
Your mom did?
Yeah, my mum did.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad was probably more of a driving force like long term, but my mum was the person that really like supported me into surfing, and I wanted to surf because my older brother Pratamo was a really good like junior competitor when he's younger, and he went on to being like the head judge of the WSL until recently, and I just always looked up to whatever he did. Like he surfed really good, so I wanted to surf good, and my mum kind of helped me get into that and like video me, and I'm sure if like anyone has like ever seen yourself surf for the first time, it's pretty traumatic experience. But
we've had a couple of people say that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like
what goes on up here versus in reality is just so different.
Yeah,
so different. But the more you watch it, the better you get too. Like it helps you improve, and you can feel it better.
I could, just like anybody that could, watch themselves, you could replay a lot of those waves so vividly that from the surf that you did. You could take
in your mind. You mean
in your mind, like I don't know. It's just something about how hyper focused you are in the water, and you can remember. And as soon as you watch it, you're like, oh, I remember that. It all comes. It's like a replay.
Yeah.
But it definitely points out like everything.
Yeah.
The goods, the bads, and the ugly.
But it's funny, there's been a couple different people that have said the same thing. It's like, man, when you see yourself for the first time on video and you think, you know, you feel like you're killing it, and then you see actual footage of yourself and you realize, oh shit, I don't have the style that I thought I had in my mind. Right?
Exactly.
What do you mean I was 4 feet above the lip and just thin out?
But it helps you improve.
No, it is. And there's a lot of little improvements that you can do, from arms to stance to knee, you know, like, It, like you said, it helps improve overall, you know, kind of, I mean, your aim is style, I think, first and foremost, and then, you know, how to get, you know, just better in general.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, my mum supported the surfing the most. Like, she would be, my dad probably couldn't do this because he's never had a license, so he doesn't drive. He's never driven a car. Whereas my mum, my mum would drive me to like all the surf contests up and down the east coast of Australia. So she was just like stuck in the car with me every weekend, going to contests and filming and stuff. So
you guys were full-fledged.
I loved it. It was like
competitive surfing, just
for sure, for a period of time. Like, I think it at anything you're doing in life, whether it's like designing or surfing or sales, like you realize what your cap is, and I realized mine pretty early, and I was like, okay, like I'm not going to be the best at that, so I may as well put more focus into something else and not kind of get dragged down a road of thinking I'm something that I wasn't, and I think that was lucky for me, but also.
That's mighty mature of you, you know, because that's really hard to do, like, because you know, speaking of surf contests, you know, hey, it might not be the best, but you know, how many times do you watch who wins the event, and it's like, he's not the best surfer, doesn't have the best style, but people
gets the best waves,
you know, getting those accolades and winnings and stuff. So it's kind of that hard crossroad of like identifying you're not.
But he might be talking about other sports and focusing on surfing.
Yeah.
Oh no, like, yes, this, you know, I think though, like I just always had a very clear understanding of like what I was good at and what I wasn't good at, and I didn't enjoy chasing things that I knew. I was just trying to like keeping up with the Joneses almost.
Yeah.
And so I just realized that early on, and went down a different track, which like got me into designing and the surf industry. But the only reason I got into that was because of surfing. It opened up, I'm sure for you guys as well, like it opens up doors that would never open up to you if you didn't know what it was like to step on a surfboard.
Refresh our memory. Who was your first sponsors?
I rode for O'Neill for a long time when I was younger, and Chili surfboards. But before that, I was with Town and Country for like that was my first sponsor when I was really young.
Somebody else too.
Yeah.
Who was it? Oh, Luke.
Yeah.
Cederman was.
Oh, really?
His first sponsor was Town and Country too.
Well, Town and Country was huge.
It was huge.
It's so big, especially in Byron Bay, because their distributor was based in Byron. All their boards were built out of Byron Bay. So like Town and Country and like Mad Dog and Michael Cundiff were like the three big kind of brands in Byron. But Town and Country I thought was so sick because I guess from like its Hawaiian kind of heritage as well. It's
the logo, the name, the you know yin yang, and I mean
so iconic.
It was so iconic. Like, I mean I've said
Archie rode for him, Fletcher rode for him, Sonny rode for him.
But that was my first real surf shirts. And I was in 4th grade, and I remember Town and Country, and I was just like beyond stoked. Yeah. Where I'm in the school photo for the yearbook, and I'm trying to like, they're trying to just do a profile shot, and I'm trying to like, right before they take, I'm trying to get it. I get like maybe that top like quarter. I'm like, they print out. I'm like, dude, I'm wearing a TNC. Yeah. Like that's how crazy psyched you were. I have to find it. Yes. Our school, you know, elementary was K through 5th, and it was Smith Surfers because it's right, you know, 3 or 4 blocks up from the beach. You know, that was the school motto. You know, it was rad. But Town and Country was
freaking was huge.
Yeah, I can remember like when they were just doing the boards for like many years in Australia, and then they started importing some of the clothing that were coming out of Hawaii, and I guess it was getting run from Hawaii somewhere. And I was like obsessed. I was like, I gotta ride for these guys head to toe. I need these t-shirts, and I was so excited about it just because it felt so much bigger than just like a brand based in Byron Bay. Like it had this heritage from Hawaii, and obviously like everything that we do now is kind of stems from that Hawaiian culture. So it's it was a special time. But it just, I guess that any kid, like when they first get sponsored, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. It's one of the biggest achievements and milestones in a kid's life, right? Especially if you're trying to be a good surfer, you're trying to get sponsored.
Well, everything else you do as a kid is a team sport or some organized sport, and you know you're on a team. You have to pay for the outfit, you have to pay for the whatever the organization, and you're in, but surfing and skateboarding and stuff is like, you could just be good, and then brands give you stuff, and you're just like,
there's no other sport that you get sponsored.
Like
there's no other sport that gives you clothes or boards or wetsuits or.
Yeah, it's funny. I can remember, my mum bought me my first wetsuit. It was like a Quicksilver spring suit, and
the zippers.
The side zippers up the arm. No, this one was a back one, but I can remember those ones. And I was like obsessed with Kelly Slater growing up. Just thought he was the coolest thing ever. And so I made my mum get me this Quicksilver wetsuit, and I wore it like as soon as I got home. I put it on and wore it to bed. I just slept all night. I was like, oh, this is the comfiest thing ever. So it was the best day of my life. It was so funny.
And how did you go about getting sponsored? Did they go to you? Did you go to them? Did you put a
That's a good question.
resume portfolio?
Yeah, like the Town and Country thing was a little bit more organic. Rob Fennick, who was the one of the main shapers in Australia, lived around the corner from me, and he used to take Tim Cochran, who was like one of my business partners in Banks and the co-founder as well. He would take the two of us surfing like every morning, and like he was obsessed with Tom Curran, so he would like film us and then like show us Tom Curran and go, look, this is what you're doing wrong, and then we'd be like, oh, we're never gonna have the good style like him, he's like perfect.
So crazy, huh?
And so
that's kind of rad, like to go to that trouble of like instilling some kind of benchmark, right? Like this is the man, this is the style of surfing you should be doing.
You know?
Effortless, smooth, powerful, low, just center. Like he was
just perfect.
That was the template of
who was better between you and Tim?
Tim was more. Tim's a much better surfer and was more successful as like competing as well. He's he's a fantastic surfer, like beautiful style, and I think that really is comes from like Rob making us look at Tom Curran every day. It was like every single morning before school, like we'd go to his house, he'd make us watch some Tom Curran footage, and then we'd go surfing at like Broken Point or Suffolk Park, and it was a great way to kind of grow up, and I think a lot of kids at that era were like more looking at kind of good times and like the videos that you were in, and that was like what most kids were looking up to, but we're getting shown more of this like, I guess, classic approach to surfing. That was really nice. But and again, I think people probably made fun of us for that as well, because like we weren't being inspired by what everyone else was. But I think that's gives you a point of difference. Whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I was in that crosshairs of the old school, growing up, and then new school happened, and it was like I'm in it, like it was kind of weird to experience, because here you are, you're looking at Potter and Curran and Archie and Gurr and like the guys and of course even MR, Richard Cram, Dane Kealoha, like that kind of group of like, there's old school and then there's a little bit of new school there with like Gurr and Potter, but then like Slater's like what 2 or 3 years older than me,
Machado,
and then Machado, he's like a year older, but those guys became like and they're kind of just, we're in the same buffer zone of age, but like that was it. Like as soon as those guys hit the scene, you're like, you know, I remember seeing Rod at a contest because he's West Coast. I saw him a lot. Slater you would see, you know, occasionally, but man, you're just like, what the fuck? Like that's what I gotta, you know, live up to, you know. But that was inspiring. But that was, you know, we were kind of in that turning point of old school, new school.
But that's rad. You had a mentor like that to kind of like, these guys rip. This is who you emulate.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the surfing that is
timeless
beautiful and classic.
I guess it's just like strong fundamentals in whatever you do. Like not running before you can walk, and
isn't it crazy though? Like still to this day, you could say you want to surf like Hearn.
Yeah.
After all these fucking years, decades, you still want to surf like Hearn or Aki. That's it. Like, do you want to surf like? Yeah, sure, Dane's gnarly, but as far as like style and overall like persona, Tom Curran and freaking.
I'd like to surf like Dane, but have a little Tom Curran in it.
Yeah,
that'd be
not quite as raw as Dane.
Not quite as raw and rough. Like he's rough, you know. He's not smooth. He's not like
fucking rad though. But
it's a difference. Yeah, it is. Like people ask like. In my mind, right, like the greatest surfers of all time, Tom Curran, Kelly Slater, Aki, John. It's not the aerial stuff. It's the freaking
still rail game.
Yeah, the rail game and the cutbacks and the gouges and the I don't know, like those are the things that stick out and mean more to us than somebody going 8 feet in the air. You know, sure, that's cool.
That's an aspect of surfing, and if you can do it, then you know, hats off, because that's very rare that people could do that above the lip. But, you know, to do just rail surfing it's never going away. You know, you look at Ethan Ewing and you're like,
he turned it up this year.
He's like a, you know, Fanning 2.0, and you're like, how'd that even happen? Like,
but even more Dane in his surfing than Fanning.
And he's got like some Andy style with his arms and his approach to the wave. Like he's just phenomenal. Like the way he surfed lowers in the final was just surfing I'd never seen down there before. So cool. I think it was unfortunate that he was waiting a little bit too long in that final heat. Otherwise, it may have been a different story. Like he's a patient.
Felipe's hard to beat, fucking totally. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But you know, going back to Curran, that was definitely. I mean, he was the man. Not just style, but competitive and everything. And you know, we were fortunate to have our surf team at Huntington High School sponsored by OP. He was an OP. He would come and speak to our surf class.
Oh, sick.
Like, you know, he did it like 2 or 3 times. I don't know for sure, but like a handful of times over a few years. Yeah. You know, man of very few words. You know, we had to pry like anything out of him. But, you know, I do remember him just saying, you know, because people are like, oh, you know, how'd you get so good? And he's like, I surfed a lot in every condition, you know. Like I surf more probably when it's shitty, you know, and like the shitty conditions, you know, and that got us fired up as kids, you know. You're like, wow, you know, like. Yeah.
I actually like watching relatable waves more than I like watching like pipe or. 100%. You know what I mean?
Well, back then the tour
like watching Dane and the wind slop and him gouging and doing turns.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And even like the Momentum Generation movies, they weren't perfect. Yeah. And you'd see Kelly doing killer things in subpar waves. You're just like, damn, I want to do that. You know?
Yeah. But you know, you wouldn't get a lot of footage of those, Akis and Currens. Maybe, when Billabong put out a movie, or this is pre, Rip Curl search, Curren, and, we would watch the events, they would have like the, summer,
hot summer
nights, and you would watch,
They'd have Surfer Magazine and then a surf contest every Wednesday night on local cable TV.
Oh, really?
It's fucking sick.
But
That's awesome.
But you know, the footage we would watch a ton of is them in jerseys.
Yeah.
You know, from
OP Pro
Miyazaki or Chiba to, you know, burly heads, you know, sloppy to whatever. It was all over, lacking out, but not in great conditions. But you're watching these guys in a jersey, just like
best heat though, and you've probably seen it. Billabong Surfing the Summer, Aki versus Curran.
Bells.
At Bells.
At Bells.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You know, you said Surfing the Summer like the movie, but the location was at Bells event.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
I've seen the heat before. That those two had some good run-ins though their whole career. Like it's a shame that Aki kind of cut his part of his career a little bit shorter than what he needed to because when he had the time off tour. But it would have been amazing if they had like a longer period together. Because I think Aki's is he a bit younger than Curran?
I think a couple of years maybe. I don't know how much, but not that much. But.
Not that much younger. But what's a trip? And going back to you talking about public speaking, Tom.
Yes.
It's weird how when those guys were younger, they were definitely less eloquent.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, you start seeing Aki and listening to him talk, you're like, dude, you're like a natural on the microphone. And sometimes Curran too, when he's with the right people, they just go. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, wow, these guys like, I'd pay to watch those guys talk about surfing all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like they know how to talk and you respect what they say. You know what I mean?
I think that's a lot of that. You know, like they have their knowledge is and their experience, and then the way their mind works is so on a whole nother level of what.
Do you remember when they were competing and people would try to interview them and you'd be like, they just not talk or they were just
well,
like,
you're in the competitive.
Especially Aki. Aki was like, he was flamboyant, but he wasn't very like eloquent or, you know what I mean? Like,
he wasn't media trained.
He wasn't media trained. And
No.
now you listen to him and like, damn.
Not media trained, but also when you're in that competitive realm, like you kind of you block everything out and you don't want to talk to anybody. And then of course, hey, how'd you do in the heat? And that one way, you just, these guys want to stay in the zone.
Yeah.
And hopefully Aki someday listens to our podcast, but if he listens to this, I miss the Oddcast.
Oh. Yeah, that was good, wasn't it?
He's
so good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like when he started doing those, and then the guests and the skits and the conversation. I mean, come on, dude. He's the best YouTuber out there.
He's fucking hilarious.
He's freaking awesome.
But going to another freak athlete that you brought him up, and I'm like, dude, that's fucking Mike Tyson too. Mike Tyson, he had the lisp, and he would just be like crazy, and like back when he was winning world title knockouts.
Yeah.
And you're like, this guy can't put fucking two words together, and he's fucking crazy. And now you listen, and you're like, fuck, he's articulate, he's super smart, he's fucking like, I want more. I'm fucking enthralled. I'm like, I love that guy.
Yeah.
Because of where he's the past in life he lived, but he's a very like.
Yeah, his persona back then was just like a caged.
Kind of like Curran and Aki and like those guys in the heats, like or just
caged, just like mental devil-minded fucking weirdo. He probably still is.
He talks
but
about
now
it.
He knows how to like express it with words.
No, he talks about it. He's like, I was brainwashed.
His trainer was doing hypnotherapy on him and hypnotizing him to like only think about killing. That's all his mindset was.
That's probably it.
Everything else in his life he just cut out, whether it was like respect for women or respect for other people around him.
It was very abusive. Like you're a loser if you don't fucking go in and win. You're like like you're a nobody if you can't go in there and do your job. And it was very
him doing that stand up thing. I don't think it was comedy, but that monologue that he did. That's when I don't know if that was after that it changed the way you looked at him, but he did this like 1 hour like stand up, not comedy, but just like almost like poetry.
Was it the Friars Club?
I don't know what it was, but I remember seeing a clip of it, and you're like, wait, is he like
Trying to
putting
be funny?
sentences together?
Well, that's what I mean. The pendulum, like, you know, you think of when we watched him in his prime, it was strictly for his fighting abilities and whatever.
Yeah.
And then you started getting these little cameos in movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And then now he's like a full business entrepreneur. And he's like, now he's got like this,
His podcast is ridiculous.
this like
Does he
crazy.
have a podcast as well?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's called Hotboxing.
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 Is he smoking weed in
Oh
there?
yeah,
Okay.
Hotboxing with
Big time.
Mike Tyson.
That would
It's
be
pretty
funny.
good. You should listen.
It's
to
fucking
it.
great.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're talking about Tom Curran, and that was your full sidebar. You know, that's how we roll.
Yeah.
But that, like, was that something you focused on? Not winning heats, but style and like just better surfing when you were.
Yeah, I think if you have great style, you can make anything look pretty good.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be doing the best or the biggest turns out there, but if you look good doing it, then it helps you get a long way. And I think that's whether like personal style out of the water or in the water, like it's having good style, I think just helps you get places. And I felt like having Curran is like a style that I wanted to kind of emulate. It was a nice kind of benchmark, and for me, I felt like that was easier to go after than like watching the Momentum generation doing like crazy airs and stuff, because like my skill level wasn't there. But getting style, you can kind of like mold yourself into that a little bit easier than doing crazy stuff and that I wasn't able to do.
Yeah.
And that was a kind of crossroads of like, I mean, there was free surfing, a non-sponsored type of, but then there became this like, dude, you could be a sponsored dude and free surf.
Yeah.
Was that kind of an option? Like if contest wasn't?
Oh no! Like I stopped competing when I was about 18, and then which was like around the same time as I finished school, and then Tim and I, who I mentioned before, co-founder of Banks Journal, him and I went traveling around the world together and just free surfed and met up with my brother who was judging at a few different locations around the world, and just enjoyed life and realized that there was I could still enjoy surfing and that lifestyle without like going after the competition thing. I could go after something else that I also really was enjoying, which was like more fashion and understanding clothing, and that was something that I was also super interested in.
When did you start thinking about design? And what was it, graphic, or was it more like cut and sew, or
When his mom made him his first board shorts when he was.
No, I think the lack of clothing in my like early childhood made me, as soon as I saw people's like fashion trends, I was just immediately drawn to that and going like, oh wow, like you can wear clothes like that, or you can wear something that I never even thought of, because we just didn't have clothes for my really early childhood. And then even when we moved to Byron Bay, my parents weren't like super wealthy, so I didn't have like heaps of clothes or anything like that. I just have the same basic thing, and I was just always interested in like what it was about clothing that made people feel really great about themselves, and I think
like the confidence and just, you know, it can
transform your whole personality. Like you can walk out one morning wearing something that you don't really feel confident in, and it will change your whole day. Whereas if you walk out the next day wearing something you feel great in, fits you well, like you're a totally different person. And it's I think there's a great power in that, like almost like a costume when you leave your house in the morning. So it's a good way to, you know, to look at it, because I mean I think anybody could identify that, you know. Like dressing up, you know, like when you don't dress up often, like I mean suit and tie.
When you first started getting clothes from Town and Country, right? Like that was the cool shit, right? And then later on, you start writing for O'Neill, and O'Neill was cool shit, right? And then you kind of get more, your teenage years, you develop a little bit more of a style, right? Like,
yeah, you get a little bit more individual with it for sure.
Were you customizing some of your sponsor stuff?
A little bit, but I think I was also just so happy to be wearing it as well. Like, I think
it's a badge of honor, kind of like you're sponsored, and that you got the sticker on your board, and it's kind of you're representing the brand, but you still want to have an individual kind of look and aspect to it, whether it's accessories or something different, or
And back then there wasn't like a lot of people walking around with Town and Country on, or O'Neill a little bit more, but definitely not Town and Country. I think it was pretty secluded, really, in Australia. So you felt like an individual by just wearing exactly what they gave to you, and you were just proud of it as well, because you're representing someone that is like putting energy into. So it's a great thing as you're a kid.
I don't know if we talked about it last time we talked to you, but was O'Neill Australia the same look as O'Neill America?
Yeah, I think so. When I was a kid, I'd say it would have been all the same stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they would have just
It
had
was
a distributor.
it was a pretty big brand over there.
Yeah.
Like
O'Neill
them and
was.
O'Neill and Rusty were, as for when you look at Rip Curl, Billabong, Quicksilver, primarily coming from Australian,
brands,
USA brands. Like to me, Rip Curl, was Australian, even though it was big. All those brands were big, both both countries. But yeah, I was really surprised on like Rusty and O'Neill over there when I visited. I was like, wow, it's fucking.
That's when they were hot too. Like
for sure,
Rusty,
like the 90s. This is like majority of the 90s. Rusty obviously a little later. I mean, O'Neill's been around forever, but clothing wise, they didn't.
Clothing wise,
until later.
Did O'Neill clothing come after Rusty clothing, or is it?
It's probably. I think O'Neill would have been doing it first, with La Jolla having like the license for it and doing all their clothing. But like it was really cool. Like now I look back on it now and I have a different perspective on it, I guess, because I've got a different style. But at the time I thought it was great. Like any surf logo, it was
so can we talk about some of the Australian brand names that we would just like, why the heck would you name a brand company that?
It's just like Japan.
Hot tuna, hot butter, piping hot,
Yes.
Mambo,
Mambo, mango,
Mad Dog.
Mad Dog. There's so many bad ones, aren't there?
Bad or not. I mean, it's just different,
Yeah.
But look at Billabong. Like what
What the hell is Billabong?
Do you know what a Billabong is?
Yeah,
it's like an estuary, like runoff, right?
Yeah.
Kind
it's a
of
body of water, right?
Yeah,
A
small
pond.
body of water.
Yeah.
Like a pond.
next
Exactly.
to the beach, like a kind of a river mouth.
But to
pond.
name a company, a surf company, Billabong, that just sounds funny.
But now, like you say Billabong, and all you think about is surfing.
All you think about surfing.
So I think the original meaning of a brand name becomes irrelevant at some point. It's just a brand name.
Yeah.
You don't attach it to like the
But it's so
name.
important, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's so important to the future of a brand.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Ruka, right?
And what the hell? They people still ask
Rivka?
me, like
RVCA.
Ruka? No, I work for RVCA. Oh yeah, I know what that is. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, I think when Billabong and Quicksilver and Rip Curl, when they started, I don't think you had to tell as much of a story as you
no,
do
you had
now.
to slap on a sticker on some app, pro board, and then it
And
just
you're done.
stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
The names that we talked about that are funny are kind of not really around anymore.
Well, but do you think that why do you think that is? Do you think that because they never made it big in the US, whereas all the other ones did? They translated.
I think there's brands in Australia that never, needed to be big here to survive. I don't know if that's,
Yeah.
but I don't,
The name's important.
yeah.
Oh, for sure, it has to sound good, but it's interesting how like Billabong, most people wouldn't know that's
Right.
like it's a small body of
But the
water.
logo with the waves, the 3-line waves, it was iconic. Same with Quicksilver. Like Quicksilver is nothing. What does that mean? Like in surf, But
Yeah.
I had the logo, the wave, and the mountain.
Yeah.
Quicksilver sounds cool though.
It
Quicksilver's
does.
great.
It
Right.
does.
Yeah.
Hot
It's
tuna
catchy.
does not.
Hot too.
No.
Mango
Hot
does
butter.
not. Hot butter does not.
Yeah.
Piping hot, not really. So there's and with let's not just pick on Australians. The Japanese with Be Wet
Yeah.
Rash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else is there?
You're gonna name a wetsuit rash?
Yeah.
Like
It just does not make sense, man. It's so funny.
So what? When you were a teenager, what music were you listening to? Like,
Ooh, I really liked Bob Dylan when I was growing up. He was
this
like,
old soul over here.
yeah.
I
No,
love
Bob Dylan was it? Yeah. Classic.
But that was my main. Michael Jackson for sure. I was like huge, but
Michael Jackson and Bob Dylan.
yeah. I guess it kind of like really different, but
I was listening to Eagles and Anthrax, and you know a little bit like just everything.
Yeah.
But those guys were more. Was Anthrax from the U.S.?
Yeah,
Yeah. These are U.S. like
for sure.
artists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Talking Heads.
Talking Heads. Yeah, like they were all good, but you have to remember Australia is so much about American pop culture. Like we probably know more about Americans than we do about ourselves because like all of our movies, all of our TV shows, like most of the brands that are coming into your life.
Yeah, they'd have like Days of Your Life, or what's that?
Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives. Like they'd have all the like sitcoms, like all of them when I go over
Soap
there.
operas.
Soap operas and
operas,
stuff,
yeah.
and yeah, Baywatch was so big there too.
Yeah, it's
like,
huge.
I mean, it was huge here, but they would definitely, piggyback a lot of the popular shows.
Yeah.
I remember even like Wheel of Fortune, and there's decent money back. This is a long time ago. Like, I mean, I haven't, I spent a lot of years going over there, but I'd watch Wheel of Fortune, and the dollar denominations on like the wheel it was like $25 to like 500. Like that was like if you land on 500, and it was like whoa. They just didn't have the advertising money because in America it was like $5,000 like.
But it was Australian.
But it was
version.
Australian version of it, and you're just like, I mean, it's the same show, same premise. It was awesome, but I was like, wow, they make like no money on this game show.
Yeah. Well, Australia's got like 1/10 of the population to the US. That's why it's so exciting coming over here to live. Is that you've just got so much more opportunity. Like everything is like magnified by 10 or more, and you just plus Americans are so supportive as well of like entrepreneurial spirit, and it's a great place to come.
Yeah.
I mean, the melting pot. Yeah, I mean, it's great to have, people like you coming over and influencing and being a part of society here. That's what makes America fucking awesome.
So, going back to you figuring out you were going to be a pro surfer. Did you ever turn pro?
No. I was doing like pro juniors and stuff, but that was it. Yeah.
And getting into design, what was your first like? I think I was starting to ask, but were you graphic, clothing? Like, what was your aspiration?
Well, always clothing was like where I really wanted to be in. Like the graphic component is super interesting, and there's a certain part of that, but what I was more interested in was like how like the product fits you and how it flows, the fabrication, the cut, the silhouette, and like that were the things I was really interested in, and then the graphics were just like almost an afterthought for the garment rather than like the first like protocol. So it was always the garment side of things, but like I can do graphics. This is not my forte.
Yeah.
But
and what was your first job? Or
doing board shorts at Rip Curl, and then I was only there for a short amount of time, and then I was really fortunate enough to be across the road from where Globe had like a little satellite office in Torquay, and a friend of mine that I actually had gotten a job at Rip Curl went over to Globe to start doing like all their clothing for Globe, and then it was a pretty big job for him at the time, so he was like, hey, do you want to come over as well? And so I went over. And our boss at the time there was Andrew Egan, who's he's a bit of a legend in the industry when it comes to like manufacturing sourcing, and he just taught us so much. Like he started taking us to China and the US and Europe for like different trips, and like China.
For Globe.
Yeah. So China would be for like all factory visits, and then like Europe would be for trade shows, US for like buying trips and research, and
so just put us in that time frame. Was that when Taj or Dion, or is it like
Dion wasn't riding for Globe yet, but Taj was, Oki was, Nathan Webster was, Noodles, if you guys can remember him.
Yeah.
So they had like a pretty good team, but it was mostly footwear at the time.
Yeah.
And then they, when we kind of started doing all the clothing, they made a really big push into like head to toe sponsorships. So like the
Hopgoods.
Yeah, Hopgoods came on board. Globe sticker was up at the nose, and it was really exciting. Like it was, I think I've said this to you last time we spoke, but like we got an opportunity to work on a project that was way bigger than our skill set at the time, and we got
because you were designing rip curl board shorts for a year.
Yeah, not even.
Not
I
even
think
a
it was
year.
like 9 months or something, and
you had to learn like whatever computer, right?
Yeah, I was good with the programs and stuff. So like we when you're designing for surf industry brands, you're not physically really designing much. You're mostly like just dropping like little drawings on your computer screen on
Tech
top
packs,
of
right?
Yeah, doing tech packs and stuff. So it's
Like recoloring. Okay, the silhouette kind of stays.
yeah.
It wasn't changing very often. It was
all just especially in menswear. Like we wear t-shirts, we wear pants, we wear board shorts and webbing shirts. Like it's all doesn't change too much.
Do you remember there was like maybe just a scalloped hem and then a straight hem? That there wasn't like all these inseams changes and like there was no maybe a cargo pocket, but like it was very simple. Now you look at the board short category, and it's so insane. Like
was the whole board short category what it became, or was it before? When I'm talking
21, 22.
Hyper Freak and you know what I mean? The board short wars. Was that pre-board short wars or was it during?
After Globe, when I went to work for O'Neill, was when that whole board short world blew up. Hurley came into the market, and with their stretch stuff, O'Neill was doing like threads infused with like silver and stuff to make it like antimicrobial, like a crazy stretch, the Super Freak, Hyper Freak. That was when everything was like. I think board shorts started getting to that $100 mark too. There was this like roof that nothing could be over $100, and then like Hurley came in with like $120 one, $150 one.
Yeah,
which was interesting. Like they really pushed that space, and like they were also developing fabrics that we haven't had before in the industry, which I thought was really cool because it felt like most of the technology in fabrics and design within surf is all wetsuits.
Yeah.
And then the board shorts were just pretty simple, really. But then we had these companies like Hurley coming in that were pushing the boundaries and making stuff that we didn't realize was available before that. So
your surf is technical, and your wetsuits. I mean, as far as performance in the water, like
it's become way more technical in not recent years, but when we're talking about Phantom and Hyper Freak, Super Freak, I don't know what Billabong's crazy, 4-way stretches, but it was all about. It was like a space race for board shorts. Yeah, and all the companies use that to fly the flag of why they were best. That pinnacle piece was the ultimate board short. Yeah, which was weird. Not weird, but like great for marketing. Yeah. And at the time, surfing was in such a big boom too, right?
Totally. So yeah, it was
because like cool. Sorry to interrupt, but like you said earlier, like the innovation of materials and like there's when you think back and you think Caton, right, or Jansen, a brand called Jansen that was a U.S. brand that was technically one of the first surf brands. It was a swimwear brand. Yeah. But that's what surfers wore was Jansens and Catons and maybe Birdwell. Yeah. But it was like thick, shiny or like rough sail canvas board shorts.
Yeah. But if you're doing the style of surfing that was being done back when those brands were first around, you didn't need a board short that could stretch like a meter long. Yeah. Like it was all pretty mellow stuff going down.
You didn't need quick dry either.
Yeah, totally. So I think it just, as surfing progressed, the fabrics in the board shorts progressed. But then
I just find it fascinating that like the wetsuit world was so ahead on that, like performance, fit, stretch, and then the board shorts you would think as important as for a surfer, like you're either in a wetsuit or in your board shorts, and it didn't really. It was far behind.
Yeah. It's funny,
but it did create. I mean, we always talk about healthy competition and in certain movements within any industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I'm all good. I'm
to
still noticing this.
to push the the envelope, as far as like innovation and just competition between brands. It was awesome time.
Yeah. It was like being at O'Neill through that period. There was so much anger in the room all the time, but it did spur progression. But most of that was coming from the La Jolla group. They were doing all the Hyper Freak, Super Freak board shots. But it was interesting seeing what was coming out of that office. It was just like so technically advanced. I couldn't even wrap my head around half the stuff that I was doing. But it was really cool, and I think it was good for the industry. I think it's slowed off a lot right now.
Oh, big time! It's we've been in a really board short hybrid slump for sure. Saturation and just a lot of. I don't mean saturation as like too much produced, but too much produced, but also just too much similarities. There hasn't been this. I think though, as we're talking in today's terms, is capturing all the different fits and all the different trends, that are happening right now. The hipster super short, 16 scallop, whatever. Kind of. We have some non-stretch, board shorts in our line, and I'm like, ugh, I never want to wear those. Maybe at a pool or hanging out and looking good on the beach, but not something you wouldn't surf in, but people are surfing. They're. And then you got the technical side, and you got the people that want the long, more traditional lengths.
Yeah. Why are the Aussies bringing back the 21 to 22-inch board shorts?
The baggy 90s style.
90s style is back.
Bro.
It sucked back then, and it sucks
The
now.
Aussies are bringing that back, right?
Yeah. There's like a couple brands that are really driving that forward, which is it's interesting. That fashion always comes around, and things that you hopefully never want to see again come back up. And
Me over the falls and knee board short caught on the knees and almost rip them. It's just functionally it sucks, but I get the look and I get the fashion aspect. But practical
fashion.
Well, it's
dude, I've had surf shop owners that have had talks with their kids, employees, that if they're gonna work in the shop, they gotta wear, because they're wearing all this thrift shop stuff and full 90s. Like it is it's like that's the trend.
No, I know.
But the baggy,
I know it's a trend, but is it fashion?
For certain people it is, not for us. Like I'm like
it's a weird
it was
one.
dead buried. Bring back the hipsters. Bring back hipster clothing.
The emu.
Bring
emu,
back the
whatever.
Rama.
No, but there's I think we talk about subcultures within surfing all the time.
Yeah.
You got the hipster, you got the fashion guy, you got the jock, you got the traditional, there's all these people participating within the industry, and we go back decades. There was one look that kind of really only catered to one type of person, and it's really hard to find those variations of fits and brands, and now it's like everything's happening.
Yeah. I wouldn't even, if someone asked me to describe what a surfer looked like, I wouldn't even know what to say.
You can't.
No, it's impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Gone are the days that they're a long-haired, like stoner-looking person living out the back of like a VW Combi. Like that's just not what a surfer is anymore.
That's an interesting.
But
that's an interesting point. Like surfing has evolved so much that it's devolved too.
Well, I think it's just like instead of being a lifestyle, it's just like a pastime almost. Like it's like going do you look like a golfer? Or like every 5 days a week when you only play golf 1 day a week? Like it's just a part of your life rather than like your whole life.
Yeah.
It's strange because like you used to be able to tell what a surfer looked like so easily.
Yeah.
And for the last ever since I started surfing, until probably the last 15 years, I think it's just kind of fallen off where you never know. You never know.
I think for the young kids, you know, that are going through this like 90s, you know, maybe
revival.
Yeah, they're you know, they just don't care, whatever. They think it's cool, and then maybe the couple of girls they hang out with are also wearing the low cut baggy jeans, and that's kind of the, you know, punk / goth whatever combo.
Yeah.
That's cool, but you know, the minute like you wear something where, you know, it's a little bit more upscale or a little bit more like, you know, fitted or whatever, and then you get compliments and you're like, wow, freaking chicks are checking me out. I think you'll get really over that kind of look.
I trip on how fast trends come and go in this stage of our lives. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, they are so flippant on what their trend is or their look.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So talking, you know, from a brand owner, you know, and a designer for so long, I mean, how hard is that to stay true to your brand DNA and without going too trendy and changing the total, you know, look and vibe of what you started with? You know, you got to have a little bit of play with trendy, but you got to stay true to what you're inspired by and kind of like that classic or whatever look. Like, it's got to be so freaking hard.
Yeah, it is. For me, it's always been trying to stick to like a core sensibility. So like you guys, I think have said a lot of it already, but like you want something to fit correct. You don't want it to be super oversized or super tight. You want it to be flattering for whatever body shape you are. And you stick with more like classic prints, like for example, like polka dots, stripes, Hawaiian prints. They're all graphics that will never go out of style. They'll have their days.
Camo, Rasta.
Well. Yeah, like there's like those core fits, and then those core prints that are always going to be relevant. They'll come in and out of trend, but if you stick to those kind of core sensibilities, then you'll be always relevant. You might not look the coolest at one stage, but you'll look somewhat relevant all the time.
Yeah, you can't, being a brand, you can't chase every trend because you'll just go out of style and people will like stop and look at what you're doing and they're like, you know, you're dumb.
There's got to be a little
Who
bit,
are you?
yeah,
What
a little
are
bit
you?
of a backbone, like, you know, core story to, you know, what your
you gotta have
look is.
a flag that you fly and that you become known for, and then that's it.
Yeah.
This guy got super stoked when the high waters came in, the little flood pants, because he still has to cut his pants.
How dare you, dude? How dare you?
You know, I think it's just because you're trying to show off your socks, huh? The cool socks you wear.
Yeah.
The black, the white, the gray.
Yes.
Lyndon, I've got a height problem as well, mate. So I want your side.
Yeah. Shut up, Lar.
Yeah. No, but going back to the flattery, no matter what your body type is or whatever, and something that you're confident and comfortable in, but you look out on the streets,
it's different.
It's like, man, what era are we living in?
Yeah.
It's a melting pot of, I mean, 60s to present, and regurgitated everything.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, that we're gonna look back in 20 years and be like, remember like 2020, 2025, like that look?
Yeah.
What look?
Yeah.
You know, like
totally.
You can almost go back 10 years and be like, what look?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
So Globe did that for how long?
I was at Globe for 4 years, and loved it. Had the best time ever. Like looking back on it, it was
Well, that's where you learn the most, right?
learn the most. There was a lot of money in the surf industry, like we were talking about before. So there was exciting things going on, and Globe was a pretty big business. Like they have a big distribution business in Australia. They also had pretty huge sales over here in the US at the time, and they were sponsoring events in Fiji, and I was able to go and kind of enjoy those and see my brother there as well, which was awesome. And it was there was just a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
And
to give those guys their, what do you call it, acknowledgement, the Hill brothers,
yeah,
like out of all the businessmen that run these companies and create these brands, they've kind of been last man standing.
They live and breathe it. Like those two guys are like,
right? Like,
oh.
I don't think we've ever really brought that up or talked about it, but holy crap, these guys have been really diligent, disciplined, and like.
Well, all of that, what you've said, you know, the passion and what you said, diligent, great businessmen, but they've struck when trends are hot, whether it's the penny board or they or they
and they license, don't they license Stussy in Australia?
They have on and off,
but they diversified, you know,
like they bought fucking Salty Crew.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things that these guys, the Hill brothers, have done. You're just like scratching your head, like, wow, that was kind of smart.
Yeah,
that was pretty brilliant. Yeah. And they're still doing it. Like, and they've never been sold. They've been independently owned, right?
Well, they were publicly listed.
But they're the two guys, or how many brothers there are, but they run the company.
Yeah, their younger brother Matt has been the CEO for since I was there. So gosh, like 15 years or something. So it's a long time to be running a company.
Yeah.
And he does a great job. And I think they speak a lot internally with Peter and Stephen because they're such visionaries and have been doing it for so long. Like they basically introduced skateboarding in a big way to Australia.
Yeah.
With like distributing so many brands. And what I really was inspired by those two, they're so product focused, and that's what I was as well. They have great people that are really good at marketing and all that other kind of front facing stuff, but they love product. Like it was so exciting, like coming to work some days and Peter would come in with some like pair of pants that he's bought in like Sweden or wherever he's been on holiday, and he'd be like, I love the cut of this, it's like this fabric is amazing, and we'd like talk about fabric and cuts for like hours, and just having that having the access to someone that was just so inspiring to me at the time was I felt really fortunate because I was just a young kid.
The only thing that I will say wasn't the smart thing to do was to do clothing for Globe.
I don't know. Like my time there, I probably learnt the most in the shortest amount of time, and it enabled me to go from designing one category to designing all categories. So I felt like I was able to be a more rounded designer, whereas like most design positions within surf companies, you're stuck to one thing. That's all you do.
Yeah.
You don't have anything.
Well, and I don't mean to demean the Globe clothing.
Oh, no,
I'm talking about every company that's a shoe brand that always tries, we've said this before, they always try to get to diversify their portfolio or add to their company and its clothing, right? I saw it with DVS. I saw it with, Supra. Etnies tried to do it. Like all the shoe brands like try to dress somebody head to toe.
And on the flip side, all the clothing companies also try to get into footwear, like, Volcom, Quicksilver, I mean, those two are no.
And it doesn't, there's nothing that really has worked outside of like Vans. Like remember Reef tried to do it. Everyone's tried to do it, but it's a tricky thing. Like
it is.
I don't know if it's a psychological thing with consumers or retailers. You know what I mean? Like your shoes, your footwear, you can't cross the streams. You know what I mean? Like you're good for that. Like I
think it's a lot of retail investment and support. I feel like there's probably consumers out there that would make it viable. But I think when retailers are trying to carve up specific space, and it's like, well, you're not proven, and you're here. I'm just gonna. It's really hard. Buyers and shop owners will kind of just like, well, they'll we've had success here, we'll just keep you here.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, let's go here. And it's like, well, I'm already getting that from X, Y, and Z. You know, like, it's definitely tough.
It's tough because when you pioneer into a new category, it's always, you gotta fucking hit it out of the park, right?
For sure.
Like you have to hit the nail on the head, and it's hard because you're asking a retailer to take a gamble on something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're already winning in this category with these other brands.
Yeah.
Why should they? Yeah, you're killing it with the footwear, and yeah, I'll carry your tees. Your tees are selling with the shoes, but now you want to make board shorts?
Yeah.
Like.
I already have 10 brands I'm buying board shorts from.
Yeah.
And there's 15 that want to try to sell us. Like it just, I think our limited.
And that's what I was saying about Globe clothing. Because you guys, they just stopped making clothing.
Yeah, like last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a good run of it. Like they also invested a huge amount of money into their team.
Yeah.
Like they had the Hop Goods, they had the bunch of it, like when they brought Dion in as well. So they had like this cross section of full pro surfer to like cool trendy Australian goofy footer that does aerials. So they had the full gamut of people on their roster. I just I agree with you guys. I think that it's hard sometimes for retailers to carve out space for a brand that they only want one category from, and they don't really want to see anything else from. And I think that's like has spurred into a lot of amazing brands like Slow Tide, for example, that just they do one product, and that's really great for that retailer because they come in and they do it better than everyone else instead of it just being like an added on thing.
Bro, loose towels is better.
Oh yeah, sorry, I should have said that.
No, but
no, totally.
We talk about, let's look at Nixon, and you look at, a brand that finds a space that nobody's really competing at or really putting much care and effort in developing, and those brands have kind of really flourished because they stay in their lane. Stance, socks, and then like you mentioned, like towel category or, but those just like Globe or just like, any other Volcom getting whatever it is, they need to get into other categories eventually.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like
that could work, and most often it doesn't.
Yeah.
What we were talking about earlier with distribution and staffing up, right? Like preparing for growth, and I think that's a tough thing about being a brand is if you're killing it with a category, you're like, okay, well, we built equity in our brand.
Yeah.
We have equity. We have the power, the name. This we're successful with this silhouette. Let's try something else because we got mouths to feed, and we just hired 10 more guys. What else can we do? What else can we put our name on? Which it's a bummer because I don't have an answer or solution to it, but that's what happens to these companies. The bigger you get, the more volume you do, the more people you have to support.
Yeah.
Well, going back to Nixon, the speaker and the headphone world was just starting to explode, and they went heavy and hard. Air Blaster, like they, and it was them, and then Skull Candy, and then all of a sudden Beats came in. With like big money and big names and way dominant. They were the Apple of like headphones and stuff,
They got into backpacks and accessories too.
No, Nixon did, and then they started getting into like fashion jackets, but their wallets, they had big belts and like accessories and bags. It was, just there. And I think 2008 when things shuffled and brands had to kind of consolidate or whatever, and some took off and some had to kind of handle the dust. But
I don't know why, but like what you said about Slow Tide, they take a category that's been forgotten.
Yeah.
Because brands have made towels.
Yeah.
Brands have made socks. Yeah. Brands have made backpacks. Like,
yeah.
I remember fucking putting Quicksilver backpacks Quicksilver socks and whatever HSS on top of the counter.
Yeah.
You know, and that was long before Stance, long before Herschel, long before any of these category specific things were around.
Dude,
Yeah.
And you're like,
Volcom socks were fucking the kids' socks with all their little characters and all colors. They were huge. I mean, my kids, that's all they wanted.
Yeah,
with the hoodie that zipped up too.
Ah!
You know,
Totally.
like those were the crazy fun socks, and then the weed socks, and then we talk about like
Huff weed socks.
Yeah,
Like-
they crush it.
fuck.
They
Crazy.
crushed it. That was like the weirdest. All of a sudden, Huff was a healthy big brand
Yeah,
because of the socks.
yeah.
And then they got into shoes,
Yeah.
and those things lasted for a couple years, and then
Yeah, so I guess the moral of the story is that let's stick to our lane.
yeah.
Well,
So Globe, you were there for 5 years, 4 years.
4.5 years,
Okay.
yeah.
And then
O'Neill.
Well, you mentioned 2008. So 2008, like, obviously was horrific for everybody in the industry and the world, like, globally. We had some huge cuts at Globe in like all areas of the business. Unfortunately, I was kind of caught up in that, which turned out to be a fortunate thing. Like, I was living in Melbourne and I was pretty unhappy as well. Like, I was traveling non-stop and work was great, but like living in Melbourne was not where I
Cold,
wanted to
dreary,
be.
like wet and not.
Just not surfing.
Yeah.
Like, I just wasn't in the water because I was living in the city and I was doing other things that were great. I was becoming more culturally aware and which I enjoyed, and
City life.
yeah, the city life. But there was something in me which I'm sure you guys can understand. Where if you're never surfing, it's always in the back of your head that there's something missing.
yeah,
And so when that happened, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna. This is got to be a silver lining here. I'll move somewhere where I'm happy, like innately happy to be around. And Sydney was on the cards, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just go try Sydney out. And I moved to Bondi, which I'm not sure if you haven't been to Australia yet, huh? But you've probably spent time in Bondi.
A little bit. I mean, surf quality around there. We're mostly never been at Avalon or
Yeah, Northern Beach is a way better for waves, but as far as like
happening and like
there was like a lot of
busy beach city.
like inside was kind of getting born out of there. Subi was getting born out of there. There was like a lot of great stuff going on within like the fashion surf world in Australia.
the hipster revolution.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's where it all started. So I moved to Bondi, and I was actually just going to take like a year off and just kind of figure out where I wanted to go. And within being in Sydney for, I think I was there less than 2 weeks, and a recruiter rang me up about a job, and it ended up being at O'Neill. And so I went over to their office on the Northern Beaches and had like an amazing interview with the general manager there. I think his name was Michael Heath, and we just got along really well and connected, and decided that it would be a good fit for me to come on board. And I thought it was gonna be a really exciting experience working for the oldest surf brand in the world, which I thought, from my viewpoint on it, wasn't utilizing all of its assets for the Australian market. I think what they were doing in America and globally was relevant for the brand where they situated themselves. But in Australia, I really felt like that really technically heavy product wasn't really relevant for the consumer base there. So I went about and was given the freedom to change that. So I felt like I made it a lot more kind of contemporary and a little bit more mature, and also grabbed a lot of their heritage imagery that the O'Neill family had up in Santa Cruz, and started doing a lot of like black and white, like vintage t-shirt prints that were like more in line with what kind of kids wanted to wear in Australia at the time, and also went a little bit lighter on like the crazy technical board shorts, and did some more elastic shorts, and just brought in and then also we changed like the whole logo and how it was utilized on product. We changed all of that then got adopted globally across the whole brand.
Wow.
So there was I was just fortunate enough in like all my jobs, I've just been given so much freedom to like do a lot of things that probably were really risky sometimes, because I made some huge mistakes at O'Neill where like I just absolutely cooked things and things wouldn't sell, but there was also some good wins on the table that proved that hopefully some of the ideas were good. But it was really cool to just work for like a core surf brand too.
Yeah.
Like Rob Bain was there, who I'm a huge fan of, and
Rob Bain was working for O'Neill?
yeah. Bainey was there. And so there was just a really good team involved, and then Geordie Smith came on board when I was working there too, and I was able to meet Geordie a few times, and I actually broke my nose on the surfing thing with him. Can you guys remember when Stab did that the jet thing out of the back of his board? And he got like towed into waves and he was doing airs, like similar to Bruce in Indo with the
I don't
The
remember.
flame?
with the flame. Did you see that the shots
With
of Geordie?
Geordie?
Yeah, I'll have to send them to you. But we were doing some tow-ins at South Narrabeen, which is like the worst wave in the world. It's closeouts, and I was surfing just like on the shore near him, and I like went over the falls on a wave and my board hit me and like broke my nose. So it sucked. But yeah, like all in all, it was a really good experience, and they gave me a lot of opportunities to grow and work with people that were great at what they did, like Geordie and Rob. So it was a fun time.
Yeah.
It was really
Well, you look at O'Neill, even the heritage and the history of it, and you're like, you can't let any of it go to waste. Like
Right.
there's some stuff that maybe is a little bit forgotten. Like you said, if you have that archives to kind of dig through and repurpose it, or at least kind of reinvent some of that, I mean, that's what you want to do with a brand like that, right?
Yeah.
Or any brand that's been around, and that's kind of
What's kind of
resonating to the people that grew up with the brand, but also the new people that you're introducing it to.
Yeah.
what
Exactly.
I was thinking of when you were talking about changing the look of O'Neill and what the surf industry at the time with the board short wars, it got really jockey.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like everyone, it was big logos.
Yeah.
It was all about competition. It was Kelly, Andy, Taj, Parko, Mick. It was all about competition and really jock.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but it's not really fashion.
No.
It's not really,
It's Battle of the Logos.
Yeah.
it's just a battle of logos. It's really jockey. And I think what you're saying is like, hey, let's take the technical foil, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It almost got to be like surfing at one point in time was really jockey, and it was really almost like what's that freaking brand with the foil? Remember gold printed Affliction, right? Like it got to that, like they crossed
The couture Affliction,
Yeah,
that era of the
Gold.
MMA.
yeah,
like,
bedazzled.
bedazzled.
Gold foil was so hot for a while. But I definitely put some t-shirts out as gold foil.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, because you obviously have really good style, right? And you have good fashion sense where you and the hipster part that I always bring up and make fun of you,
Yeah.
and it's not making fun of you, it's because you got cool style.
Thanks.
And to me,
He's wearing a beanie.
that's like, you know what I mean, like
Anything
I'm always wearing a beanie or a hat because I'm a freaking.
because you're taking something that's not archaic, but O'Neill is a name that's prestigious and heritage in the surf world,
Yeah.
and the cool kid isn't gonna wear it.
Yeah.
And you're trying to design for multiple people, but you absolutely want the cool kid to wear it.
Yeah.
And that's what you were doing,
Yeah.
is taking off the bedazzle.
Yeah.
And hey, instead of having all this flair,
Yeah.
let's fucking, make it cool.
Yeah, just simplifying.
Yeah.
It was all it really needed. Like all the ingredients were there. They just needed to be like mixed together a little bit differently to
Yeah.
make it relevant for that market that I was like looking after.
Yeah.
Like, if I was over in the US working for La Jolla, I would have been doing exactly what they were doing because it was perfect for the market here. But I just could see that sales were kind of declining at that time for that brand, and I saw that there could be a gap, and we luckily enough, like, we took some risks and took advantage of those openings, and it did for the most part pretty well.
A lot of brands have kind of tried to incorporate a global headquarters and kind of wanting the brand to
have
look
the same messaging.
same. I get it on marketing, like, hey, these athletes or this silhouette or whatever, but I think that was kind of maybe a little more harm than good for a lot of these brands that try to incorporate, like, well, we got to hit MOQ, and we're going to share fabric, and we're going to make it for all these different territories or countries, and I think it needs to be a little bit more specialized for certain markets. Like, hey, there are maybe a silhouette or a style or something that will work across globe, but like, let's just keep what's trending and happening in Australia, like, there, and if it works here, cool, we'll adopt it or try to share. But I think it got to a point with a lot of the brands of, like, nope, this is the message, this is the look, and they kind of did more harm than good when they got to.
It's weird because there's certain eras where that works, and then there's certain eras it doesn't, right? Like, there's definitely like a global appeal sometimes, and then certain periods of the year there's way more individualists.
But jackets or pants, something that just doesn't change that often, but like graphics or t-shirt, like fabrications, or there's definitely things that change a lot more often than like your kind of brick and mortar, like, core store, like chinos. Okay, hey, we're gonna have a couple different fits, they don't change that much, but when it comes to whether it's floral prints or going back to the geo prints or this, like, or right now, right, you got
tie-dye, camo.
I mean, tie-dye, but there's just stuff doesn't work everywhere,
So O'Neill,
and then I was on a work trip. I was on the tail end of it. I'd been in LA, New York, then Tokyo, Hong Kong, and then I was finishing up in Bangalore in India. And so I'd been away for like a month. This hectic work trip, and I'd been on and off talking to a brand called the Critical Slide Society, PCSS, for like almost a year. One of the co-founders of that brand, Sam Coombs, was a really good friend of mine, and is the hardest working, most creative person I've almost ever been around. He's like incredible, and he'd been wanting me to come and join their team because they actually didn't have any employees at this time. It was like just him, Jim, and Susie, that were a married couple that was his business partners, and they were just a grassroots little cool brand coming out of Bondi in Sydney, and doing really, really creative stuff. Like, not the most commercial, but really creative and fun, and definitely more so like on the longboarding alternative side of stuff rather than like the technical shortboard stuff that I've been doing. And Sam had sent me this like offer letter that had just been kind of sitting in my inbox for so long, and I was kind of just pushing it off because I was nervous. I felt like it was leaving the security of like a big multinational company, had like crazy team riders, and had a company credit card, etc., to being the first employee for basically a startup, but had presence, like some really good presence in Japan and Australia, and some here, like at Thalia.
What was their like product mix when you came on?
It was basically it was tees, boardies, and woven shirts, really, and some caps. But it was basic. Yeah. But they were doing a really good job, and they had like a cult following, like a small, really cult following. It was really cool. And he tried really hard to get a package together that was going to make me leave, like a safe job. And I eventually, I was sitting in India. I was just like, you know what? I've been playing pretty safe. I may as well try something different and see if I can do this. And so I signed the form, sent it back to him, and said I'm on. And then like 2 days later, I arrived back in Sydney, resigned, and then started at Critical Slide like a week later, and I spent like 4 years there, I think. And that was super scary and super daunting at the start, like going from like a big office with like big warehouse out the back and all these employees and different people around the world that you can communicate with to help out do what you're doing, to just me sitting in the office.
Rama, we're going to have you do design and then shipping, and then you're going to have to go do production, and then you're going to have to go sweep the floor and clean the bath, and then you're going to have to go, and there's no budget, and you're getting paid the same for all of it.
But it was awesome though, because I think one of the things I felt was really difficult working for these big brands is I wanted to offer my help in everything, not my expertise because I didn't have it, but I wanted to be involved, to learn, and because I think if you understand marketing or you understand sales, you're going to be a better designer because you understand like what you guys are going through selling the product, and you understand how the marketing team has their difficulties taking it to market. And so I just wanted to know more, so I could be better at what I did. And so, but with all those other positions, I wasn't really able to do that. Whereas going to TCSS, I was able to do everything. I'd go show the range to retailers. I'd do design stuff. I'd go to China or in India or Bali to do production stuff. I'd come to the US and do trade shows. Like it was just all encompassing, and I loved that because you're not just. I don't think it's like changing what you're doing every day, but just being able to be involved with the full circle is what like I really enjoy.
Which is so important, right? Like, you know, I think
it is
us reps and people in sales, because our life depends on what brings at the register, just like for the company, like you got to make good stuff, but you know, our criticism or our input or our, you know,
we have to understand the
opinion,
process.
You know, like, you know, it sometimes is a little not well received with designers, you know, and the vice versa. Like, oh, well, you know, it's definitely a weird balance.
It's weird because for the most part, designers design for the future.
Yeah,
and that's the problem between sales and design, is because they're thinking ahead.
Yeah,
and our mentality is what's selling now.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and that, like, we want to sell that because it's cool, but no one wants that right now. No one's seen it yet. Yeah. No one's had success with it yet. So, can we just do this one again?
Yeah, you got to look at history. You got to look at present and the future, and that's you're right with what they are so far ahead.
Make the logo bigger.
But, you know, we are subjective to like our opinion and what we're seeing at sell through versus what the buyer's seeing and wants. And, you know, it's like usually our formulation isn't just super individual, you know, like it's not just us. It's a kind of a collective of like, you know,
voices from the other territories.
So it's not, you know, I don't, you know, but it's those who speak the truth or opinion. Kind of gets the brunt of like, oh, you're, you know, that
balance between future design and at once business is so. It's hard. It's a hard thing to place your bets on.
For sure.
Because how long will you hang your hat on a cargo short? Cargo short's killing it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Cargo short is killing it.
Yeah.
Just keeps killing it.
Well,
and you're like, okay, when is it gonna stop? I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then, okay, you know, season comes and you're like, hey, the cargo shorts are starting to slow down. What? We ordered fucking 2,000 of them.
I think it's that 80-20 rule. Like, as long as you 80% of the stuff.
Wait, pause. We got a dog that's gonna freaking.
This guy's crazy.
No, I that 80-20 I think is an important, concept and stat to kind of like, kind of rely on,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what brand, you got to stay true again to the back history and what the brand is all about, and 20% of future or trend or whatever. That way you're kind of not taking too much risk.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the Ruka side, we've always been a little bit forward, on a lot of things. And then it doesn't click when it's in market or whatever. And then they kind of digress. And again, that's above my pay grade with who makes all those decisions of like, not following through a few seasons in. And then all of a sudden, like 10 brands come out with it like a year later.
And then
and then it kind of hits. And I'm like, man, if we just would have stuck with that like one more season, we would have gotten the benefit of it not, so timing. It's definitely timing and having commitment to standing behind something, even though if it is a little bit obscure, not really on trend. It's like, hey, we believe in it and we got to preach it. And that's tough too,
That's tough.
Yeah.
So, critical slide.
Yep. So I was there, I think it was about 4 years. But that was a really interesting time. Like, as I said before, like I was a bit of a jack of all in there, just doing a lot of different things, which again, like I really appreciated and loved, like getting such a 360 view of product from like the very start to when it's installed onto the consumer. And that was an invaluable learning experience. And I also got to spend a lot of time on the factory floor. Like we were doing a lot of production in Bali, in this like tiny little factory near Canggu, and I'd go over there meaning to be there for like a week.
Surf. Work on my tan and surf. Get good food.
Mainly my tan and surfing, but I'd go over there meaning to be there for like a week, and then I'm not sure if you guys have done any production in Bali, but it's a nightmare, and there's always problems. There's always holidays. It's raining, and it's hectic. So I'd end up being there for like a month or two at a time, and I just couldn't live my life like that. Like I had my partner back in Australia, and I'd just be like, oh, I'll see you in a week, and then not home for like 2 months. And so I got to a point where I was to Jim and Sam and Suze. I was like, why don't I just move to Bali? Oh, I can be like on the factory floor every day. I can do everything I'm still doing. I can fly to Hong Kong for a day. Like I used to like get a midnight flight out of Bali, Denpasar, land in Hong Kong at like 6 a.m, have meetings all day with factories, get on a flight at 6 p.m. and be back in Bali by midnight.
Dang.
24-hour trip. And it was just so essential. I could go to Japan and have meetings up there with our distributor. I could come back to Australia to do the like campaign shoots. It was just more central being located there than anywhere else.
And the ways are fucking good there.
The perfect place to live.
But it was so good. It's so good. But it trains you to have this very unrealistic view on where you are in life, because you don't have to make a lot of money to live really, really good. You have this like, incredible house with a pool. You have someone looking after the pool for you. You have like a pen
groundskeeper, you got a cleaner, you got a cook if you want one, exactly. You got somebody to run your errands if you want one.
The most perfect wave, the most delicious cuisine.
Great food, Nazi.
Let's go.
Fudge.
But
can we?
Once you come home though to the real life, you're like, shit,
that makes it even harder.
Yeah, that was really spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you said, you get this false sense of like, not many people live like this in the normal world, and you're not this, multi-millionaire where that's what it takes to be living like that in most other places.
Yeah.
You're kind of, you're a granola surfer.
Yeah. But it was incredible. Like you just get to surf I was surfing Canggu most mornings, getting such fun waves, really good food, like you were saying, Lyndon, and just it was a great place. And it was amazing for work too. Like that was like one of the best parts. Like for the business, it was really good.
Well, you're living in like a metropolitan style like melting pot, but you're in a beach scene.
Yeah.
You know, like the amount of
third world, but with every amenity you could ask for.
Well, I'm just like talking on the fashion side. You're getting people globally that are coming in like into a little, island beach, community. But
Yeah.
I know, but what I'm saying is like it's a third world country, but you're not living third world. You're living
no
first
way.
class.
Yeah,
Right?
First, like definitely first class. It was insane. Like and the factory that we were dealing with. I'm not sure if you saw those custom-made board short tours that we did through Japan. So we'd go to like Ronham and like do I'd set myself up in one of those stores, and customers would come in and design their own pair of shorts with me.
For Critical Slide?
Yeah. So I'd go to Japan and do these like week-long tours to different retailers and design board shorts with customers, which I don't know how I did that looking back on it now, but it was fun. So we'd set up this like full backdrop of like all the different threads, different prints you could choose, and then I'd design it on the computer with them. And I'd go back to Bali and sit in these factories for like months trying to put these like custom shorts together. Like it was
wow.
torturous, but the customers loved it, and we'd do it like every year for a few years. We were doing it, and it taught the Japanese consumer that we were like the custom board short brand, so it helped like other sales as well. But it was super fun.
It's a great little niche.
Yeah.
It's kind of rad.
Yeah, but like you couldn't do that anywhere else except Bali. Like anywhere else in the world, like you go to China
And having somebody there like babysitting the factory no, that pocket has red stitch. No, that hem has yellow. Like just pointing out the.
Yeah, so much work.
I mean, Vans does that still, right? With shoes and Nike custom.
I don't know, maybe.
I
like
certain
Nike ID, right?
certain brand, but like I don't remember anybody doing board
It
shorts.
was very bespoke, but fun. It was cool. It was interesting seeing what people come up with as well. Like they'd come up with just colorways or combinations of yardage.
Was it like individual consumers, or was it a shop?
Individual consumers.
Wow,
So that's crazy.
We would design like a couple hundred pairs of shorts a day with people.
Were they upcharged?
They were expensive, really expensive. So
Fuck
like,
yeah.
But they were always like really good, like Ron Herman over there. So like they're an expensive store as it is. And we had like the whole section of their store, and then we went and did it at like the Green Room Festival, that music festival in Yokohama. We'd do it there as well. Like it was a wild experience. Like the consumer was just so stoked.
Yeah.
But that was something that like Japanese culture was already kind of familiar with and already had on the wetsuit side. Everything was kind of custom.
Yeah.
Like the store, you wouldn't go into a.
But
for those that never been there,
I don't think any board short, even Japanese, there's no board short company that was making custom board shorts.
No, but for our listeners,
Yeah.
like you wouldn't go to a surf shop and see 15 brands with like 50 suits of each brand.
Yeah.
It would only be a couple to show you like design.
Yeah.
And then they would measure you, and then you'd open this book of all the materials.
Yeah.
Pages and pages of colors.
You can order your quiver custom, your Be Wet, your rash.
And your axe.
shorts.
And your axe, but it would, hey, I want this colored stitching, and I want these, whatever.
Yeah.
But that going back, that Japanese culture, they understood it, and it was kind of like you could charge a premium, and they were fine with that because they were like, they were like, I want to look good.
So Critical Slide.
Yeah, and then after that came Banks Channel with like our Japanese distributor Masa became a really close friend of mine because I was spending a lot of time in Tokyo doing karaoke nights, and
Masa was Critical Slide distributor.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was a Critical Slide distributor.
Jungle Jam, is it?
Yep, Jungle Jam.
What year was this?
This was 2013. So yeah, like 10 years ago. So we Massa always wanted to like work more closely together and also develop his own brand as well. Like he'd been distributing things. He owned that brand Royale, which I'm sure you guys know of.
Our buddy Casey Wheat.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Yeah. Casey's a good
Great.
dude.
Great brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a trip that, does he still do that there?
Yeah. He still develops and sells it through like Murasaki Sports and then his own stores called Port of Call, which he's got like 11 stores. And the stuff looks great. It looks really cool. It's pretty. It's like Hollister kind of stuff, like just really commercial stuff, but it works within the Japanese consumer. But yeah, he's always wanted to do his own brand, and so him and I started discussing the idea. Sam Coombs was also like a part of the initial kind of talks about it, but what we kind of got to a point was like Sam was like too busy, obviously, to owning and running Critical Science Society, and I really wanted to do it with Massa, but I knew I couldn't do it by myself, so then I went and got Tim, who's like a lifelong friend from Byron Bay, who like we both worked at Ripcol together and then gone off to do our own individual kind of careers within the surf industry. He ended up going to like Rhythm and being like their first designer there after Jamal Gray, who was like an incredible board short designer as well. And then he went to doing Hurley and was like the head of product for Hurley in Australia. Did a lot, it was like back and forth from the US a lot and working with like the Nike team all the time, and was just so knowledgeable from a business kind of standpoint, structural standpoint. Then so we wanted to start something together, so we started Banks, and we were fortunate enough to kind of be able to launch in Japan through like a lot of really top retailers like Beams and United Arrows and Freaks and Ron Herman, because of Massa's kind of connections over there and his distribution business.
Did you launch in Japan first?
It was US, Japan, and Australia all at the same time. It was all like the same kind of month basically.
Yeah.
But Japan.
How did you come up with the name Banks?
Well, so you guys call them sandbars.
Yeah.
We call them sandbanks. So like banks is just like the sand formations underneath the ocean that the waves break off. And then we obviously added on journal further down the track because we fell into some like trademarking issues that were a nightmare. Like when you try to trademark, in retrospect, trademarking a word like bank or banks is just really difficult because it's a financial institution. A lot of people use that word for different things, and we just fell up against so many brick walls along the way, and unfortunately like 2 years in we had to rebrand everything to being Banks Journal, which was like a really costly journey to take, where you're having to do all new labels, all new swing tags, like everything, new website, the whole thing had to change, and it was scary for us because we were so new as well, and
would it be detrimental or would it not be a hindrance, you know?
Yeah, and like I was like, this is gonna kill us. Like we're having to like rebrand ourselves now, and we've only been in the market for a couple of years. It's not like we have this huge marketing budget to explain this change.
Where were you living when you launched the brand?
I was in Sydney.
Still okay.
Yeah. So I moved over to the US about six months into the brand launching, and the reason being is that a guy called Jonas Lee was kind of brand managing. I think you know Jonas. Jonas is like a jam, but
such a trip how Jonas Lee is coming in and out of my sphere, my world.
Oh really?
Yeah, because and I didn't even know him, but he worked for Crew and Supra.
Oh yeah.
Way back, in the day.
Yeah. Jonas is.
How did you guys connect with?
Jonas got connected. I forget how we originally got connected, but it was to do sales for us in the US, and he was doing a great job. But we quickly saw that he needed more support to do his best work. And we also saw that like our biggest territory is definitely going to be North America, without a doubt. And so there was some talk about who would come over and do it, and Tim has like 2 daughters and a wife, and has like more things locked down than what I do. And then
That's my wife, April.
hi, how are you?
What? Pick her up at 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we basically drew short straws, and I decided that I was the person to have the shortest straw, and came over here and set up an office and got things going. And then Jonas ended up not staying around for too much longer after I got here, but he was pivotal in like getting us in a lot of great retailers. Like, he got us in Thalia, he got us in American Rag. He was the one that got us in Japs as well. Like he really
Set the table.
Yeah, set the table in a very varied account base, which I think followed through the entire lifespan of the brands, which is all really because of that groundwork that Jonas did at the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, so crucial. Not just having a brand, from
Fashion.
cut and sew to fashion to printable, having that kind of offering. It also goes hand in hand with the offering of like where you're selling. You can't just be pigeonholed into like just surf, like mainstream shops. You got to have surf like boutiques or the kind of specialty surf, and then you're talking about like some really nice fashion stores.
Yeah.
Which gives the brand a lot of like lift.
There was, for people that aren't in the industry and aren't in the know, that there was like a new category of surf, and it was a little bit more elevated, a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more I don't know, higher price point for sure.
Yeah.
And that was, the ushering of Critical Slide, Patagonia, like those brands that kind of took you out. What? Patagonia too. I mean, the price point
Price points
higher, right?
Yeah.
high.
But they helped usher
Yeah.
in a different kind of surf brand.
Yeah. For sure.
And Critical Slide Society, Banks, Insight even from before.
Definitely.
Like those were brands that were like not typical surf jock brands.
Yeah.
They
Deus as well.
Ruka even.
Well, dude, I was just gonna say, like, my account list was 50% non-surf fashion stores.
Yeah.
From American Rag to Fred Siegel to,
But
definitely not just surf.
and even retailers like Thalia,
Yeah.
Atacama, like there's different surf boutiques that were Pilgrim, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean. There's a different kind of surf retailer or shop that
Needed
Cater.
things like that.
like
They didn't want to fill their stores with like non-surf brands. They just wanted surf brands to suit their consumer base or what they wanted to portray as surfing. And I think like there was a lot of great brands like Stussy, Ruka that kind of laid the pathway to crossing that kind of skate, surf, fashion lifestyle that made it possible for brands like Rhythm, Banks Journal, like Rock to some degree as well. Like there's some amazing brands out there, and then like Caton as well. Like coming, obviously they're like a legacy brand that have come back into the industry for the last like 10 or so years and are doing an amazing job. That they're sitting in a lot of really great retailers and are giving a different point of view than what like Billabong, Quicksilver are offering. So there's a lot of great brands out there. Like it's so good to see that they're all, I think, getting a bigger opportunity now to kind of shine their light, and I think the retailers are seeing that they can make money from these brands as well. And I think Caton's probably the brand that's really driving that forward. Like they're really commercial but great product, a great team kind of that supports them. And it's I think that's the key is showing the retailers that they can be profitable. They're not going to just make them look cool. They're actually going to make some money from these brands. And I think a lot of a lot of like the emerging brands have really struggled to do that, but it seems like Caitlin has hit a stride that a lot of other kind of smaller emerging brands haven't been.
We talk about it quite a bit in our circle. It's like COVID blew up our industry.
Yeah.
You know, like it focused on outdoor action sports industry.
Yeah.
And part of Caton's rise on the charts is because the big brands were stuck out on containers and had logistical nightmares, right?
Yeah.
So anybody who had product and ship product, because you could sell pretty much anything, because people were coming to stores, you know, hungry to buy. The demand was pent up, and Caton and Rhythm, Rourke, we talk about this all the time. Those brands that kind of percolated underneath the big brands, they finally got their time to shine. Yeah. And they performed. Yeah. So Caton's definitely the windfall of COVID definitely helped their place in the market now. Yeah. Because their styling is awesome. Yeah. But you know, they finally, after how many years they've been around? 50 years. Yeah. They're finally like being talked about more and more, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah, these heritage or legacy brands, you know, I mean, you could look at Quicksilver, Billabong, and Rip Curl is like almost legacy brand now for how long they've been around. You know.
Oh yeah, they are the heritage legacy brand.
You know, but you know, like O'Neill, they did the Jack collection. Yeah. You know, they start kind of tiering and catering to kind of different demographics within the brand. I mean, you got Billabong with Honolulu, you got Quicksilver Silver Edition to kind of cater to that Tommy Bahama guy, and then you got, you know, whether it's a collab with some of the athletes and doing that more edgier, whether it was Dane Reynolds back in the day or some skate, you know, like you get to that point, you're just so big, you know, but you know, it's hard to execute at all those levels at all times, especially when trends come and, you know, go or athletes come and go. But
just like, staying relevant
is really hard. Yeah. And it's almost easier now for some of those older heritage legacy brands to kind of stay relevant because they have so much depth and history, which is now kind of cool again, you know?
They just bring it out of the archive.
No, for sure. Versus somebody that's just trying to build upon something new and like, well, you know, you're only as good as like what you have right now versus like, well, you know what, you know, we'll mix in a little new and a little old and see what sticks.
So Banks, you launch it, 2 years into it, you move to US.
It was about a year
into it. Yeah. Now, how's the launch? Was it successful? Was it tough? Was it?
Japan was really good, really quick. Like they blew up because of like Masa's kind of distribution network over there. So we were in like all the best retailers in Japan, like in the first.
And the product was on trend.
It was pretty good. Like it was. I think it was a lot more commercial when we launched. I think we went through a few different designers throughout like the journey of the brand, and that you could see that reflected on the product. Like we started with Tim and I designing. Our background is the surf industry, so I think it was more surf orientated than Chris Schulstad, who was working with you at Ruka for a little while, but was at Billabong, then us, Ruka, now apparently he's back at Billabong, which is great. Shui, he came on and he transformed the product into this whole different level, and he also, his background is like board short design, so he made the board shorts even better than what they were, made them a lot more technically kind of advanced than what Tim and I were doing, and just all around made the product so much better. Plus he understood surf because that was his background. And then when he left, we hired this guy, Jacob McCabe, who has the same last name as me, but
weird,
no relative. But he comes from more of a street fashion background, and again developed it further and made it more, I guess, kind of fashion street orientated than surf because his background wasn't surf. And so it's developed into something different to what it was. but at the beginning, I feel like the launch was successful, but it was more commercial product back then. That was more in line with I think what the market was then as well. Like, so it was a lot more logo kind of based, and some good basic board shorts and good woven shirts. But yeah, the launch was pretty good. Like, it was definitely, it felt successful. Like, launching a brand in 3 different countries all at the same time was a big undertaking, and I felt we launched in some really good retailers really quickly, which was super helpful. Like, we had Brad Gerlach involved with the brand at the beginning for, he came on like about a year in and was involved for 2 or 3 years. And his involvement for North America really helped. Like, he opened up some surf retailers that we probably wouldn't have been able to get because
he's definitely like
a marquee name,
a big name.
Yeah,
you know,
Sager.
Yeah,
you're on board.
Yeah, he's a legend, and also he was a great alignment with what we were trying to do, because he does have really good personal style. Like, he's a bit of a style guru, both in and out of the water, and that's what we were trying to do as a brand. So it felt really relevant for what we were trying to do at the time, and he was a crazy guy to meet. Like, one of my heroes growing up, and got to do some work with him and see how he holds himself within a business situation was interesting, and something that I learned a lot from, and yeah, as I said, like, I opened up a lot of doors for us, so it's super grateful for that experience with him. It's cool.
So you came over 2014, 15-ish, and you've been here since.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we met 2015 or 16.
I think 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I think, was Jonas still working with us then, or maybe he just left?
I think he was just left, because I don't remember. I kind of remember, but don't remember him working with you then.
Yeah, he must have just left. But yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So like 8 years.
8 years, and it's funny, I almost worked for you.
Worked with me.
Worked with you.
Yeah.
Because I was in between jobs or something, and somehow we connected, and we were both at Hex.
Yes.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
And then what happened? I was like, you started flowing me clothes, and I was just like, holy shit! Yeah, you sponsored me, dude. And it was the coolest stuff, you know. So I was like, fuck yeah. And then I was working for Hex. I was doing a bunch of stuff, and then one day that I got a job, you actually called me and said, hey, why don't you work with us?
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, dude. I just got a job today.
At Adenome, wasn't it? Yeah.
It's the same freaking day.
That is insane.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Good timing. Meant to be, I guess.
Yeah.
It's all that timing. I think we ended up hiring Tom Goad.
That's right.
For that position.
Yeah.
Who is was with us from then until when we closed just recently. But Tom was amazing. He's like a young kid, and he actually was working for the Critical Slide Society out here doing sales for them. And then so I stole him from them to come work for us.
You didn't want to juggle both, or just not really?
Oh, I'm a big believer in in-house sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the external sales rep thing is hard, because your time is spent juggling so many different brands. And you don't really get to focus in on building something. Like, I think at some stage within a brand's life cycle, you don't need someone to build so much, you're just maintaining. Whereas like at that stage, we needed someone to help build. And like, to do that, you just got to be on it 24 hours a day and like live and breathe it. Whereas if you've got that mixed in with a bunch of other brands, I feel like you just kind of get lost a little bit.
For sure.
So we, like, our East Coast and West Coast rep were always in-house, and I felt like they were our two biggest territories, which they should be, but they were both in-house, and I felt like that was a
good move.
good move. Financially, probably not because it's more expensive, but just the brand loyalty and building the brand in those retailers that really helped.
It's funny because I agree with it, and I also think there's definitely different structures that work.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, the in-house thing is killer, depending on your distribution and depending on, you know,
what shows you attend, you know, that can service, you know, particular regions, and you know, like it depends. There's you know, a million ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, totally.
You know, but it's a good perspective to bring up, and you know, like what works for you or that time, and I mean
it's crazy because Lar is SoCal, handling a couple different brands, and that's perfect for what he does.
Yeah.
And I am doing a couple different brands, and I do
a couple.
The US.
Yeah, you do so many brands.
But yeah, it's crazy. Like it's definitely different depending on the structure and depending on where your brand sits in the market.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Yeah, I've seen it work in every type of way, and also I think it comes down to the person that is dealing with the sales team as well. Like I felt like I could do a better job if they were closer to me in a way, and like I understood what they were doing, and they also understood what we were doing as a brand.
Yeah.
And also like Banks Journal is just like a small little family as well. So having more people that are involved 24 hours a day helps build and expand the brand as well, because they're fully immersed in it. So and I was lucky to work with some really great people like Tom here on the West Coast, and then Ryan Russo. I'm not sure, Russo's a great guy that did the East Coast. So yeah, we were lucky enough to work with some really good salespeople.
Yeah, it always comes back to the owners, founders, whoever's financing, and like what their objectives are as a brand. You know, like hey, we could keep it in this spectrum and keep a tight team and be successful because you know we that's the distribution we want, or you know, get some more people in, and then all of a sudden, you know, you got more opinions, and then you add more bodies, and things starts blowing up, and there's all, you know, different ways, but
I need to pick up my daughter.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that's what that song was.
Can you go 15? Give me 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Grab beers.
Sounds good.
Sorry, Rama.
No, don't be sorry, man.
And we're back.
We're back.
I'll just put a nice little commercial in there, right there. You know.
So
Shoots.
So Banks, I mean, you're what third year, fourth year. Tom came in third or fourth year.
I think it was the third year in Tom came on board. Maybe third year in from the brand actually starting from, but like it was the second year that I had moved over to the US. He came on board, and it was great to Tom like is a close friend of mine, and is just embodied the brand so much. Like he's not like the best surfer in the world, but he loves surfing, and he understands the lifestyle. He loves product, he loves clothes. He really enjoyed like vintage stuff, which I do as well, and he had like a similar appreciation to just design.
Yeah.
So I think that helped him really understand what the brand stood for and what we wanted to be in the market. And I'm not sure if you've ever seen him in store, but he really knows how to make people feel good. Like the guy is so charismatic.
People love him.
Oh, it's insane. And like I would put a lot of our success in the US up to Tom's relationships and how much he worked. Like he worked just non-stop to support us and get us into retailers and make sure retailers were getting their product on time and having good sell-through. Like he was really the front person for the brand for many years. So And Ryan Russo was the same for us on the East Coast. He just
Yeah.
wasn't in our office every day. So Tom and I kind of just had a closer kind of working relationship, which was amazing. I think having that close connectivity with your sales team really helps. And I think that from a design perspective, the designers are usually kind of hidden from sales a little bit. They don't get to interact as much, and there's usually like some tension there, which like you guys mentioned before. But I think if both sides talk more and like respect each other and learn from one another, like you get the best product.
Yeah, I mean it's got to be. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Like it's so important to have that open dialogue and be able to work together, and just I mean we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes there is a little friction between sales and design because again, design kind of keeps the brand, thinking forward and on trend and so in the future, and sales definitely has that kind of more realistic of like, I need to please the accounts, and this is the feedback that I'm getting from them, and this is what I'm seeing. And it's okay to look at like products from competitors and being like, hey, this is what's working for them. Not that, I mean, we're in a world of, everybody kind of copies each other, but puts their twist on it in a way. But yeah, having an open dialogue between, sales and design is really important, and you had that nice, tight, like group where you had that.
So you've got West Coast, you got East Coast, and both those guys are doing shows in their respective areas, and you guys are pretty successful, right?
Yeah, we got to a good sized business. Like we had about 280 retailers in the US, and globally it was up a little bit over 500 retailers globally. Dude. So we were in a decent amount of accounts and some really great high quality accounts too, which was awesome, and had a couple of our own retail stores, one here in downtown LA, which was like our first flagship store. We've had two in Hawaii. We opened up one in Chinatown just before COVID, which it couldn't have been worse timing. We ended up closing down during that, but then we opened up another store like 2 years ago at the Surf Jack Hotel in Waikiki, and have a little coffee component mixed in there too. So it's we had a good run. Yeah, it was an exciting time and super rewarding.
Yeah. So when you got it's kind of neat to hear like the struggle of being a new brand and then persevering and getting it to that. That's impressive. 280 something accounts in the US
alone,
right?
Yeah, that's huge.
It's huge, and you're in a diverse mix of retailers. You're doing e-com with like Stitch Fix. You're doing e-com with what is it, Huckberry?
Yeah, did some business with Huckberry, Shopbop. Yeah, we had like a pretty substantial online kind of presence as well.
And you're in great, boutiques, Monica General.
Yeah.
You're in
American
Rag, and then you're in core surf shops. Yeah. So it's so sad. I think when I heard of the demise, right, I was so shocked.
Yeah, because you just moved offices.
Yeah.
Like not too long ago.
And,
And the brand was stable. I mean, from the outside.
From the outside, you were like there.
Yeah.
You got the plane off the ground and you're flying around globally.
Yeah, like revenue wise, the brand was the biggest it's ever been, and I think brand recognition was as good as it's ever been. Product was great. I think we made some unfortunate decisions through COVID that to do with investing into direct to consumer stock, which ended up not panning out the way we envisioned, and we ended up having to get rid of a lot of product at a high discount, which ruined our margins, which meant it was hard to pay future bills. So we've been in this pretty unfortunate financial situation for the last 2 years, and we've been trying to get ourselves out of it by making smarter decisions and not having too much product, especially on the direct to consumer side of things, because our wholesale business driven by Tom was doing really great. It was just a lot of effort and a lot of money put into DTC that just didn't really pan out the way that we wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, everybody was kind of forced a hand to kind of look at that business and invest because of where we're at, and you weren't isolated, and you weren't as far as somebody that was going out on a whim. That was kind of the standard across the board with everybody. I've heard it internally with our company. It was like, hey, we're investing a lot of money into DTC, which is direct to consumer. That's where we're going to make up this margin, and that's where we're going to help balance out the fallout from brick and mortar for that short period of time. We didn't know how long it was going to last, but it's, you're forecasting out production and investing in products far.
Yeah.
Direct to consumer is it's not new, but it's new-ish to our world, right? And it's almost part of the equation nowadays, where you kind of have to have direct
Some
consumer.
sort of,
Yeah.
And I love it that we're both sales reps, right? Our customer is shops, and we want our shops to win over our own D2C, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because the more prosperous our accounts are, the more prosperous we are, right?
But if the company's healthy, it helps everybody. So
Yeah.
if they're making, they're making money, on that D2C, and it's helping everybody, whether it's marketing or events or whatever, for because all that money's going back into the pool of the brand.
And hopefully we're not trying to pry, but you're saying you punted too much on direct to consumer product. You didn't have the robust sales that you thought you were going to get.
Yeah.
That's what kind of got you in a little bit of a pit, right?
Yeah. It was all to do with cash flow at the end of the day, and some poor decisions from the DTC to get us into that cash flow problem. And we were still, the brand was really strong, I believe, within the marketplace, and the product was really great. We had some great designers and working with really talented people, and we, from a leadership group, we just went down some roads that we probably shouldn't have, which is really disappointing when I think of brands that run their life cycle, they end because they don't have the consumer base there anymore, or the want for it. But whereas in our case is the exact opposite. It was just it was all our own kind of doing, not that we didn't have the consumer there anymore. So it's disappointing to see all the hard work of all the people that have been involved with the brand over the years kind of come to the end that it did. But also, I'm really grateful for that opportunity to see where it got.
Yeah, and not to belabor your brand is still, people love the brand, right? And it was so, when I heard the news and I saw the post, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because it wasn't something where we saw in retail and art, because we're all in a lot of similar stores, and be like, oh yeah, Banks, they haven't been doing great. It was like, what the fuck?
Did you hear about Banks?
Because we hear and see and we know who's selling, what's doing well, who's it's a small industry, and we know when a brand's not performing, or but it was none of that. It was just, whoa, what happened?
It hurts to hear it, because we've known each other for such a long time. We've had you on the podcast before, and we've never have been this kind of close to somebody that went bankrupt.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's hopefully business owners or whatever, like future entrepreneurs can gain some knowledge from this conversation, because really, like, you haven't done anything wrong, right? It's like the brand is still, I mean, if magically you got revenue, a couple $1 million to pay off debts, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Because you're still selling, you still could sell product.
Yeah.
Your brand still has equity.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And again, this is the aftermath of, the shutdown and COVID, and it happened across so many industries. And, I talk to people outside of our industry, supply chains and timelines, and, factories closing overseas that, was like a secured, kind of production. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different factors that have just, ruined everybody, at some way, so we're just trying to say, like, it's not, we're not trying to be a bummer here, but we're just trying to be realistic and trying to learn, like, what
this is what happens in real life.
This is real life, right?
Yeah, I think something that I've learned through the last few weeks going through this process is that if you're have your own business and you've got questions and you need help, you should reach out to people, because I think that's something that, like, throughout my whole business with banks and my career, I'm pretty insular type of person, and I feel like if you have the humility to reach out to people and go, like, I don't know this, can you help me with this, or can you give me some advice through this period, like we're having some cash flow issues, or we're overstocked in this stuff, like, can you help me? I think that's having the strength to do that is really important, and something that I think I can take away from this experience, going, like, I probably should have asked more questions and asked for more help sometimes, rather than trying to keep it all internal.
And that's just talking about it, because talking about it with somebody is going to be like, hey, I know, again, we were just off camera when Lyndon was gone, networking, and just having, fellowship within, people and network. Hey, I know somebody that could help you out, or at least answer some questions. Yeah, so not talking about it, and that's just not within business. That's in life, and that's in personal, like. So, that's in everything.
Totally.
Was inventory an issue before COVID or after COVID?
All after COVID. The business was super clean before COVID, and then even like the first year of COVID, 2020, all of our businesses, like all of our wholesale accounts closed down, and even our online retailers closed. We were really fortunate that we were shipping out all of our online orders from our store in downtown LA, so we weren't relying on a 3PL.
That's great.
Our online store just started picking up overnight, and we grew like 250% that year online. So we ended up being able to move through the product that got cancelled from wholesale. But moving into 2021, we were like, we're gonna at least get growth on that number, like 20-50%, and then so we invested in basically a year's worth of product with growth on already a year that grew like 250%. So we had too much confidence in the growth that we were seeing, and then as retailers opened back up and people started shopping back in brick and mortar, plus they were spending money on traveling again, there was just less cash there for wholesale or direct to consumer. So we ended up being flat on 2020, and so we had a huge amount of stock that we just couldn't get rid of. As I said before, we had to sell at a low price, and that lack of margin just got us into a really, really dark place, unfortunately. And which is weird, because you think DTC is going to be great for margin, but at the end of the day, it's actually all risk. Like I think acknowledging that your wholesale partners
are taking a lot of risk with you.
they're taking all the risk with you.
Yeah.
Because like usually they're paying you on time, they're supporting your brand, they're promoting it, they're marketing it for you, and I think a lot of us, including myself, I think took that for granted in a lot of ways when like that was a safe business, that like you're having someone else support your business forever, and then all of a sudden you put all this effort into direct to consumer, whereas if you had reinvested that into wholesale, we'd still have a really healthy business today.
Yeah.
So it's
that's the taste of the forbidden fruit.
yeah.
You know, like you get a hit, that dopamine hit of increased sales because of direct consumer, and the crystal ball of like, okay, what's next year going to look like?
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
Even if it's a schmidget of what we've experienced, we're still going to kill
did you
it.
speak a word, dude?
Schmidget. Schmidget. If we're going to have a little bit of that success that we just went through, like you're still in the plus.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens in every. It doesn't even have to be COVID. It happens with booms and then declines, right?
Yeah.
Like you just don't know when that door closes, and it sucks because you it's not that you're greedy, but you're like trying to prepare for growth.
Yeah.
And it's like that story I was talking about with DVS and PacSun buying into it. You get this huge fucking order, and then 6 months later they close, or not close, they get out of the footwear category.
Yeah.
And then you're like left holding all this all this inventory plus staffing up, right? Like
everybody thinks like, oh,
it happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
you could have a successful business and stay flat, or you could have a successful business that's on the growth.
Yeah.
But like Lyndon said, there's so much revenue or there's money that costs that go in with that. Like growth takes money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like business is such a gamble because you're rolling the dice, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like stock market and gambling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both those things and our business. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
are there gonna be waves?
Yeah.
Are people gonna break boards? Is the water gonna get cold? Is the sun gonna shine?
Yeah.
Like all these stupid
Variables,
variables. You're like, okay, like last spring, we sold elastic waist volleys, right? And we sold this many. Is the water going to be the same?
Yeah.
Is economy going to be the same? Is like all those things that we kind of take in consideration, but until it happens.
Well, you brought up weather or whatever. Spring, California or West Coast in general had
a spring this year.
Had a shocker, but typically when one area is affected by weather, there's a lot of other areas that aren't, or it benefits. So you can move product around, and you come out okay. But COVID was like, fuck, everything's shut.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, this part of our portfolio is affect everything and everybody. And it was an unknown. Nobody knew how to navigate.
It was a blessing and a curse because we've been doing this a long time. We both worked at HSS on the corner in the mecca of the surf industry. Yeah. And all those years that I worked there, I thought that was it. Like there's nobody that does it better, bigger, than our corner. And then going out into the real world, you're like, oh shit, there's other people doing it. That's fucking cool. But then you're thinking, oh, that time was the golden age of retail. Yeah. And when, we've interviewed a couple different people, Don Hansen and Mark Richards from Val Surf, and these OGs telling you to your face 2021 and 2020 were the biggest years in the industry. Yeah. to hear that and go and see it,
Yeah.
and live through it, and you're like, isn't that crazy?
Mhm.
Like, what's
It's crazy when you just print a couple $1 trillion and give it away on how that's gonna really affect.
Yeah, where's that money gonna go?
Uh-huh.
But like the perfect
In the
storm,
surfboards.
Yeah.
the perfect
A lot of
storm,
surfboards.
Yeah.
the perfect storm happened.
Yeah.
No gyms, no organized sports,
Yeah.
no traveling abroad, people working from home, free money, all these things funneled to us, our industry, our outdoor action sports industry.
Until they started trying to close the beaches. Come on now.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But no, it is. It was a blessing and a curse because nobody knew it was going to blow up that crazy.
Yeah.
And
obviously you hedged the bet, right?
everybody.
And I'm sure you're not alone in these hedging of bets, and that the price you had to pay was Chapter 7.
Yeah.
Now, Chapter 7 is, you were telling me earlier, you basically give up everything.
Yeah, basically the day that you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you hand over the keys, and then there's a trustee of the court that takes ownership of everything, and then they liquidate all your assets, including like trademark, stock, furniture, whatever it is, to pay off the debts. So that's the process that we're in right now, and hopefully for our debtors we can pay off as much as what we can. But it's a really
Is it too crazy to ask you how much you owed?
Yeah, that's
Too crazy.
Yeah, he likes numbers.
I do.
I'm like, it's very rude and inappropriate.
No, it's okay. I think the main reason I probably shouldn't is because of like the
Legality.
of what we're going through right now. But
But it was insurmountable at the
it was a big number.
Yeah.
It was a big number.
enough to put you into Chapter 7.
Yeah, well, what happened is that we were working on a deal with one of our biggest manufacturers to take on some equity in them forgiving some of the debt. So we'd been working on this deal with them for quite a long time, and I was really positive it was going to happen. Like I was like 99%. It doesn't make sense for them to walk away from this debt.
Yeah, it's guaranteed good business. It's like
Yeah.
And future business as well. And the manufacturer is a really close friend of mine as well. They've known since Rip Curl, so like 20 years like working with this person, and they took the deal to their board. The deal got refused. They let me know like on a Monday. I'd been talking to myself and my partner had been talking to our bankruptcy attorney for like a couple months just to know like what our options are if we ran out of money basically. And we had a meeting with him, and he was like, my response to this is like, tomorrow you should let go of all your staff, close all your stores, Friday we'll file for Chapter 7. And then so
talking about a freaking knockout punch.
yeah, and then like later that night I had to have a board meeting with our board and to vote that through, because myself I can't decide to do that. I have to like vote on it myself with my other board members and explain the situation. We all approved it, and then next day let everyone go, and that was it.
What doesn't kill us makes us stronger, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like rough.
Yeah.
That's like not, it's not fun.
But it's like having a kid. What you've done, and
Yeah.
you fucking work so hard, and and it's not just you.
So
It's
many people.
So many people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to bum you out.
No,
but it's like
The livelihood of like all the people that you're a team, their family, like
Yeah.
and
and indirectly all these retailers that have become fans of the brand, that made money on the brand,
Yeah.
they're genuinely probably like pretty bummed too.
Yeah, for sure. Like you'll by doing it this suddenly and we were kind of forced into it, we're letting a lot of people down. Like we couldn't let our employees know, we couldn't give them notice of what was going on. And then our wholesale partners, like they'd booked in a lot of product from us for the next few seasons, and now they're gonna have less product than they need to hit their budgets. And obviously they'll be able to fill the gap through ATS with other brands, but it's still pretty awful feeling to like be letting so many people down in a lot of different areas.
So we talked about it a little bit earlier. Is there hopes of saving the brand, or is it?
Well, like the process is the point. The court appoints a trustee. They liquidate everything, and there's opportunity to purchase the trademark back, but it's there's no guarantee in that. Like whoever bids the most gets it, and I think for me, I would love the brand to survive regardless of my involvement, but I'd love the brand to live on and do what I think it deserved to do, because I think the brand was a special brand because of all the amazing people that helped build it. So I do hope that it has a life beyond this process that it's going through right now.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether I'm a part of it or not, and I would love to be, but it's not up to me anymore. So
well, a lot, to give you a little bit of faith, there's been a lot of brands that have gone through similar situations, or just partnerships, fallouts. It kind of the brand goes wayside, and then it gets resurgence like later. And there's definitely hopefully opportunity for it to
In Japan, it's still going though.
Yeah. So my partner in Japan still owns the trademark for Japan. So they were luckily enough, I guess, secluded from this process, which I'm really happy about for them, because they get to continue it on. Going through the process of like how that's developed now that like the US business is closed is another story, which we'll have to kind of like work through. But they're still running, which is great, but globally outside of Japan, it's all done because the US business owned the global trademark outside of Japan. So it was everything got kind of soaked up in that.
Yeah.
So what are your days consisting of now that that's off your plate somewhat? What's the future?
Well, straight after it was actually so busy because we had to kind of close everything down within like a few days. So it was really busy just trying to deal with all of that, staff, retailers, our locations like our office and warehouse and retail stores, and then I flew to Japan for like 4 days of meetings with my old partner, trying to figure out the possibility of like keeping Bankstrom alive in Japan, or possibly starting a new brand. So there's been a lot of talk of that, which is exciting but also daunting. Like the idea of starting a new brand is it's a lot of work. And there's a lot of luck involved with it too. There's so many components. So that's something that I've been discussing with people and trying to figure out whether it's a possibility.
What's your gut feeling? What did you want to do?
Like moving forward, I'm a product person, so like whatever I do, I want to be involved with product, and whether it's starting a new brand or developing product for people that can't develop it themselves is something that like I'm really interested in, because the building of a brand wasn't what I was like extremely passionate about. It was like building a product. So and I think there's a lot of people out there that want great product that maybe don't know how to do it themselves. So me being able to assist them in doing that would make me really happy, and it's something that I've thought about. So there's different things I'm kind of throwing around, but no matter what it is, it's going to be product.
Yeah,
for sure.
So freelance or picking up it's probably too soon to go dive into a full without knowing, you're kind of still in that. whatever stage right now. I don't even know what to call that, but you know what I mean. Like you still have
Bit of turmoil.
turmoil, yeah. But you still have, you know, your skill set, you know, which you can parlay that into whoever wants to, you know, utilize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy because I feel like you already know, you have a blueprint of everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But you said it earlier, it's daunting to restart,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, but like, you're young.
Yeah.
And you got so much talent and vision and
It's just like switch footing. Just you know, just do it.
Yeah.
You already know.
Yeah.
You already know. Just get on it now. But it's fucked. Yeah.
it's a bummer to have a colleague, a friend, and you know, you built something so bitchin', and it's a bummer, but that stuff happens in real life. But I mean, we're confident that, dude.
You're Rama motherfucking McCabe.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Like
guys.
you're the original Australian hipster. Dude. You're gonna reinvent yourself in some other brand or, you know, business venture.
Well, we'll see. Like I think with any door closing, another one opens up, and I'm looking forward to what's next. And at least one thing that let me have another chat with you too. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Dude, I mean, it's been awesome. Your story, and I mean, this is just another chapter.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you're talented, you're young, you know, there's probably a million things going in all kinds of directions on where you could go get a safe conservative job somewhere, some big brand, but like I feel like you still have something to give that's, you know, more you know, versus but you know, if it's picking up a paycheck and making ends meet and doing whatever, like just do it, you know, don't fucking hold back, you know?
Yeah.
You can design a bunch of late night with Chalky stuff.
Dude,
100%. Let me know. I've got a lot of time on my hands these days.
let's go. Well, we gotta go. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
I mean, this is,
I really enjoyed it.
you know,
Let's
That's it.
surf when you get back.
Yeah.
and keep us updated.
Keep us updated, or if you need, you know, anything from us,
We know some
like,
people.
Fucking
You know,
feel
some people.
free. You know, like
Thank you.
we love what you've done, and we know that, you know, it's just a matter of time of your next venture.
Yeah, we're
But shameless plugs.
we're in it. We're in the
Cavalier
industry.
Pools and Spas, baby.
Shoot. We got hats, t-shirts. Go check us out. Let's get some freaking stuff.
There's two
sold.
designs.
We got Bonsai Bowl.
We're effing surfers with a logo hit, and then
Or
just
just
a
a
logo,
logo.
hit.
Yeah. Koozies.
Thank
They're all
you to
good.
Earth Pack for sponsoring the show too. They are your packaging needs for merchandise, retail, whatever. Ashland Hard Seltzer,
Shade sunscreen.
Shade Sunscreen, Clear Weather brand,
Yep.
Bonsai Bowl.
Fairweather brands. Check out those.
What else is there?
You guys have got a lot of sponsors.
Oh.
Well done.
This is neonwave.com.
Oh, okay.
You've heard of Neon Wave. They carried Banks Journal.
So if they spend $50 and put
on this is neonwave.com.
on list, yeah,
Yeah.
$50, punch in late night in the promo code, you get a free hat.
Oh, sick.
Anything
right?
for $50 purchase and over.
Nice. GWP.
Eat Northside,
Northside
Cafe.
Fuwax.
Foo Wax.
I don't know. We got too many to name.
Yeah.
Got a lot.
We'll take more though. Let's go. Well, Peter, thank you guys. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.